Hey, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to start off with a short prayer. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Father, we thank you for this MD and all your blessings. I just want to reach out to the people, bless the people in Eastern Canada for the devastation there. Give them peace. Give the people in our region that have families down there, give them peace. It's a trying time for our family down in Eastern Canada. I thank you for our people in this MD of Bonnyville. Bless them, keep them safe. Our staff, thank you for each and every one of them. Keep them safe as well. Give this council wisdom today as we make decisions on behalf of this MD of Bonnyville. In your name, Father, amen. Just wondering if there's any additions to the agenda.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Reeve. Administration would recommend the following additions. 9.2.3, under the Planning and Community Services, we have a request for donation to the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. So that would be 9.2.3, funding request for the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And 9.5.4, the Cold Lake Regional Chamber of Commerce Business of the Year Awards invitation.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Mr. Reeve, I'm not sure if we have to add this to the agenda, Mr. Chair, but you received a letter from the Cold Lake Snowmobile Club asking for some support for an event they're hosting. So I don't know if you want, if that comes up later maybe or something. I don't think it's on this one. Because I think you just received that.
If we just received it, it would likely be planned to come at the next council meeting, I would imagine. I don't know for sure. I saw the letter, but it obviously didn't make this package in time.
No, it's pretty recent, so I'll just, yeah, we'll just make sure that comes up next time.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, I also want to, something I'll add onto the agenda. Let's talk about, I don't know if this is proper, but I had a talk with a wise man yesterday about even sending a little bit of funds down to Eastern Canada because it seems like our Prime Minister ain't doing nothing. So we can just have a discussion on that. Maybe yes, maybe no. Just a short discussion. I don't know where you want to put that, Al.
To the Reeve and council, I would suggest that would probably go under, I would look at 10.16, I guess, 10.16, right after council action report, would probably be the best place to put that.
Thank you. Any other additions? See none, I'll need a motion. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Reeve, I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Sawyer, for making a motion to accept the agenda as amended. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Carried, thank you. I'm looking for a motion, a regular meeting of council, September 14, 2022.
I'll make a motion to accept that information as presented.
Okay. Thank you, Deputy Reeve Fadeev, for, on behalf of council, that council approves adoption of the minutes of September 14, 2022 regular meeting of council as presented. Any discussion on this? Oh yeah, you might have. Yeah, you probably. Sorry. What?
Mr. Reeve was absent, so I can make the motion.
So even though I read the report, I still can't make the motion.
Yeah, no, you can't if you're not there.
I don't think you can.
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds good.
Nice try, though. I should have done that.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Kraviak. My fault, I should have known that. On behalf of council, the council approves adopting the minutes of September 14, 2022, regular meeting of council as presented. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote.
Sorry, Councillor Fideo.
Carried, thank you.
This one's yours, Councillor Fideo. Or-
Looking for a motion to accept September 2021 Committee of the Whole meeting.
I'll make the motion this time. I was
Okay.
there.
Thank you, Deputy Reeve Fideyev. On behalf of council, the council approves adoption of the minutes of September 21, 2022. There's a lot of twos there. Committee of the Whole meeting as presented. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Carried, thank you. I guess we'll go to 7.1. That was a good one. Morning.
Subdivision application 2022 dash. There we go. Am I on now?
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Subdivision application 2022-S-011. The administration has received and is presenting application for council consideration where the applicant is proposing to subdivide one 0.13 acre parcel from an agricultural parcel that is to be consolidated with the existing lot described as CFT 132386115 as shown on the map attached as Appendix A. Notification of the proposed subdivision was mailed to referral agencies and adjacent landowners with a deadline of September 20th to submit concerns to be considered at the September 28th council meeting. No concerns have been received regarding this application. The proposed application is to subdivide 0.13 acres from the existing agricultural quarter section to be consolidated with the existing cemetery that's in within that CFT. There was a boundary realignment, I guess is what we could refer to this as. The application meets all conditions of the Municipal Government Act, Subdivision and Development Regulations, and the Lower Athabasca Regional Plan, Municipal Development Plan, and the Land Use Bylaw. Therefore, we recommend it be approved as per conditions. Number 1, legal and physical access to proposed parcel and remnant. Proposed parcel to be consolidated with the CFT 132386115 prior to registration. Additional condition that I'd like to add in there would be the applicant shall meet all requirements of federal and provincial regulations, including but not limited to the Cemeteries Act and the Alberta Health Act. And for number 4, taxes to be paid in full.
Thank you. Just looking for a motion.
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we approve it. One thing though, I thought I thought they had asked a while back about getting the fees waived because that's a cemetery, and I thought with the MD, I noticed they paid a $420 fee. Am I mistaken on that?
That
or-
was an error. They did not pay the 420 fee. It was
Okay.
waived by the MD.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Then I'll gladly make the first motion there.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Crick. On behalf of council, the council approves subdivision application number 2022-S011 to subdivide one 0.13 acre parcel from agricultural parcel that is to be consolidated with existing cemetery lot described as CFT number 132386115 from agricultural quarter section northeast 2263 west of the 4th M, belonging to Ronald and Diana Hodinsky for the Lakeview Gospel Center Church as per the conditions presented. Any discussion on this, gentlemen?
It's just a question, Mr.
yes.
Reeve, and it's not all that critical, but how did anyone actually even find out that there was a slight offset in the boundary?
If we could bring up the map again, the location map, the aerial, there you go. So as you take a look at this, the cemetery in the bubble has been outlined. There is a parameter around it. So when they took a look at the aerial photos, it shows that the majority of the graves are not within the boundary of that cemetery lot. I would imagine that back in the day when this originated, they did not have a survey for it and assumed where the lines were, which skewed everything slightly to the west, or east, sorry.
Yeah, what I can remember is when they were fixing up the entrance. I don't know if you remember that. Maybe you weren't even on council when they first were doing that, but they were fixing the entrance, and then they kind of started figuring out that maybe all the graves were
In the wrong spot.
buried in the wrong spot. Yeah. So yeah. Deputy Reeve Fidel.
Yeah, it's very common. We had the same thing over at Cherry Grove Cemetery. There was 10 acres where people were, it wasn't subdivided for whatever reason, and society thought it was theirs, and the landowner thought it was his, and yeah, it was kind of, wasn't very fun dealing with it, so.
Yeah. Well, it is what it is.
Yep.
Yeah,
Thank
we're
you.
fixing it. Looking for a motion? It's already there? Yep, I already did that. Any other discussion? Sorry.
I just wanted to, I guess, acknowledge that Victor Kaluk here, he did put a lot of work into organizing this on his own time, not on staff time here. So just thanks to him, and also to the landowners. They are just willing to sign the land over to the cemetery, so that's very nice of them as well. So it's a great effort. Great to see a lot of people working together to make this happen. So
Yeah, very good comment. All right. I'll call for the vote then.
Just have a question.
Oh, sorry.
Just an off-matter question. So in regards to where this is, I thought I knew where the cemetery was, but then when I looked at the map, I realized that I didn't. So on 897 and 604, there's a cemetery on top of the hill. Who's that belong to?
I don't know, I would have to do some research on it
Okay, yeah,
and bring
that's
that back
okay.
to council.
That's,
Right across the road?
Yeah.
That's like, they're mostly Ganskis are there, so, but I don't know who,
Okay.
but the Ganskis, I rent all the land right there, so.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
And buy those cemeteries all the time, but mostly Ganskis. That's, if you wanted me to find out. I
oh,
could
no,
for
no,
you.
it's okay. I was
Okay.
just curious, thought maybe you had it at the top of your mind. And,
No, sorry.
okay.
All right, that motion was carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess on to new business 9.2, planning and,
Good morning.
morning.
So the first item we have for you today is Northern Lights Library System Advocacy Letter Request. The MD has received a request from Northern Lights Library System for us to consider providing further endorsement of an NLLS letter recently sent to the Minister of Municipal Affairs, the Honorable Rick McIver, requesting additional funding for library services. The last increase from the province to the library system grants that are in place was in 2015. Attached in Appendix A for Council's consideration and for further details is the requested endorsement letter request, as well as a copy of the letter that was sent to Minister McIver on August 31st. The reference to our strategic plan is that this is in line with goal number 3, promoting community development, and there is no cost associated with this request. Administration's recommended action is that Council approves sending a letter of support from the Reeve to the Minister of Alberta Municipal Affairs, endorsing the Northern Lights Library System's request for additional provincial funding for their regional library services.
Thank you. Just looking for a motion.
yeah, I'll make the motion that we send a letter endorsing their request for more funding.
Thank you, Councillor Crick, on making a motion on behalf of Council that Council approves sending a letter of support from the Reeve to the Minister of Alberta Municipal Affairs endorsing the Northern Lights Library System request for additional provincial funding for their regional library services. Any discussion on this motion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Carried, thank you.
On our next item, I'm actually going to ask our lovely Director, Bowen Clausen, to come and present that one.
He's lovely, eh?
I caught
Looking
that as
sharp
well.
too.
Yes. Morning, Mr. Reeve and Council.
Morning.
So I'm bringing the tabled motion from the previous council meeting on the Vezo Beach boat launch for more information. So at the September 14th regular meeting at council tabled this item and requested additional information on the boat launch component to be brought back for council prior to rendering a final decision on the tender. The following additional information is provided as follows. We've attached Appendix A, which is a scope of work out of the February 3rd, 2021 RFP for the design and engineering services for the Vezo Beach boat launch and mooring system. Appendix B is the scope of work as defined in the July 21st, 2022 final installation and construction tender for the Vezo Beach Marina and boat launch. And I will note that on that appendix it's mislabeled. It says RFP, it should say tender on its title. As well, Appendix C is a copy of the engineered drawings for the new boat launch and what it would look like and that. So as shown in these appendices, the type of boat launch being installed is a double vehicle cement cast launch. It's roughly 36 meters by 9 meters or 30 feet by 120 feet. The design accounts for the high and low water marks, large boat sizes, tie-in to existing parking lot, alignment with the mooring system location, and the high launch traffic and usage. Most of the costs for the boat launch are attributed to the following. The boat launch grade preparation, which must strictly adhere to environmental requirements, which include possible installation of a cofferdam, as about 2/3, if not more, of the launch will be in the water. So to prepare the base, you'll have to be, most of the work will be in the water. Removal of existing boat launch, survey work as required, excavation and removal of sediment layer, grading and base prep of installation area, installation and grading of an aggregate base. Then after that would be the boat launch precast panels. These are all precast, and they would be placed then on this base that's been graded and then fastened to the lake bed. The remaining costs are within the mobilization, demobilization of equipment and the contractor to and from the site, the tie-in of the new boat launch to the existing roadway, and the environmental management of the project as it's ongoing. In addition to the above, boat launch and mooring system installations of this large size is a specialized field of work with high risk for the contractor. There's many unknowns once you start to entering the water body. This limits the number of interested potential bidders, and while multiple interested parties did inquire on the project, only one compliant bid was submitted. Taking this all into account and noting the type of boat launch required, this is a much more substantive project compared to many of the MD's usual basic single vehicle launches. So it's tied to the strategic plan and promoting community development. The costs are still remaining the same as the previous RFD to council, with a cumulative cost of the whole project budget that's remaining is $1,044,389.52. The remaining engineering costs are $42,801.19, and the successful tender bid, not including GST, for the boat launch is $626,738. The mooring system is $1,615,439 million. And the total tender bid, if the whole project was to go forward, would be $2,242,177. The shortfall, if it was to go forward in its entirety, is $1,240,588.67. Our recommendation is that council directs administration to proceed with the replacement of the Vezo Beach boat launch portion of the Vezo Beach boat launch mooring system project as outlined in Schedule A of the July 21, 2022 tender, to be funded from the 2022 capital budget. And furthermore, the council cancels the provisional mooring system portion of the project as outlined in Schedule B of the tender. There's the council's options, and
Okay, thank you. Looking for a motion or some comments right off the bat? Yes, Councillor Scarson.
Well, I'll certainly make the motion for number one. It still falls in line with our budget. The docking system I think we have now is going to be fine for a while, right? I just have some questions about the launch though. So it says it's 90 meters long.
sorry, it's 36 meters. So it's, what is it, 36 meters long, which is 120 feet long by 30 feet wide.
So it'd just be one on one side of the dock?
Yes, yeah, it's planned to go on, I believe it'd be the west side of the current dock system.
Okay, so that will work with what is in there now? You just have to shift it over, or what?
Yes, through the yeah, it would fit within that same, they'd remove that, the existing boat launch, and then it would be placed in there. There may be some shuffling over, but we have enough play in the current system.
So could two trucks unload a boat at the same time on that?
That's what they've designed this for, so if it's still fairly tight, but if it gives around 15 feet per vehicle.
So why not put why not put pads, 15-foot pads on either side?
That's good. I guess that could be an option. It would have to be re-engineered and designed for that, but this was kind of the design they recommended. But,
Only reason I asked is I kind of envision a lot of people, you know, backing in and maybe taking up too much room for another truck to back in, even though it might be designed for two to back in. I think you probably only ever get one at a time. Where it is set up now, you see lots of times there's two trucks in there at the same time, right?
Yeah, through the reef, if it was separated, it would allow for easier use. I do believe it would likely incur much more cost though, because you're then separating and doing two separate base preparations. It's no longer just one big slab, you're getting two, so there'd be some increased costs, I would.
Maybe there's an opportunity to put some sort of marking system or something, like to
Yes.
say there's two spots here.
Yep. Yeah, we can easily put line markers down or flagging pylons I've seen at different launches to indicate where the trucks and stuff line up, but for sure.
Go to Al then.
Thank you, Mr. Members of Council. 9 meters doesn't sound like much, but 9 meters is actually a meter wider than the widest road that we pave in the MD. So just to kind of put it in perspective, I think there'd be an opportunity to delineate somehow, either with some permanent markers or some other way to delineate the lanes. But it is wider than any of our roads would be.
Yeah, I was thinking the same. It's 12 and 12 is 24, and we got 30, so we got vehicles going by at, 60 mile an hour, 100 kilometer. We
Yeah, I
should be able to
definitely
back.
agree that it's gonna be wide enough for two, but you know what I mean, like, you'll see
Yeah.
people parking right down the middle of it for
Not
sure,
everybody
right?
can back a boat down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and just for everybody's entertainment value, Cold Lake does have a live feed on their boat launch, or you can go to YouTube and watch people backing into boat launches. So I understand the concern. 9 meters, in theory, should be plenty for someone who could back a boat.
It'd be like me, I have the ball in the front. No. Counselor Crick, I think you had.
Yeah, just to, I guess I was gonna ask the same question Counselor Scarson asked about putting a launch on either side, because we're looking at about 627,000 for one launch, a wide one, 2 lanes, right? And then the other launches that we were putting around Moose Lake, they were around 30,000, I'm correct? So if we did 2, you'd think that, I'm just thinking aloud, that would be 60,000 as opposed to 600. Do one on each side of the dock, right?
Sorry, through the reef. Just to clarify, so you're thinking the sorry.
North Heights and Birch Grove ones, I think he's referring to.
Oh, okay, yeah, so, through the reef, those are very different, and wouldn't be able to meet a lot of the requirements of this launch. That's why this one costs so much. Those aren't able to withstand the traffic, the weight loads, the length of where it's being put into the launch. So that's why this is designed the way it is. Those work for lower use, smaller, and they only go into the lake a short little ways. This one goes in almost the 100 feet of the 120 feet.
That's a long ways.
In the water, and with it then becomes an issue of maintenance too. With those types, they're more of a grid pattern, so they allow for movement and stuff. That said, that also increases the maintenance and upkeep as ice pushes and it thrusts them and stuff. So you run a lot more risk of that happening, and then you'd have to build a cofferdam to get in there and repair them, because they're not lightweight. So it's
So this one that we're looking at here, the ice won't push this one up?
Through the reef. No, this is so it's basically they're precast large cement slabs, and then they're slid into the lake and then fastened down. So it's just one big cast cement slab. Anywhere from 6 to 8 inches thick, and reinforced with rebar and everything else. So they're meant to withstand all the
Quite a bit.
motions and stuff. This would be anywhere from 20 to 30 years, dependent. Again, it's variable on water type and usage, but as long as there's regular maintenance too, because they do require maintenance. You have to put riprap on the sides to ensure that if a boat does go off the edge, it's got some rocks. It's not just going to drop off the edge and break an axle or anything. And if you'll notice that there's cracks and stuff when we do our annual inspections. So as long as that's been maintained and stuff, similar to the dock, as long as you're doing regular maintenance and inspections on these, they should last a very long time. So.
Deputy Reeve Fideo.
Councillor Scarson asked, one of my questions was, was the end of life? So thank you for that. Yeah, it's about 30 years. Another one is, the high-low water situation that might occur. Have we put that into the scope of this job as well?
Yes, through the reef. So that is incorporated. That is the reason for the length. So it's currently in the drawing. It shows where the high water mark is, and then there's a little bit that's sticking out above that if it even went higher, as well as where the low water mark is and how far past. So there's allowances there if it does go below the lowest water mark ever and above the high water mark. So that's the reason for the length primarily.
And then I guess just a general question in regards to our ICFs and all that kind of thing is, are we going to just have how's this going to work? Is it going to be one of our asks then with the investment that we're putting in, and there's going to be a lot of town usage and all that stuff, and I'm just wondering about that, CEO.
Thank you, through the reef to Deputy Reeve Fideo and rest of council. So the two things I'd like to point out is, number one, I am currently working with the CEO of the town, Mr. Rogers, in terms of setting up some dates for ICF discussions. currently we're looking at mid-November for those dates. Nothing solidified yet. The other option is obviously to charge, I think the city of Cold Lake charges $8 or $10, I think it's $8.50 to launch a boat to recoup some of those costs. So there are some options available for council. Either they're discussed through the ICF discussion with the town, or a fee is charged for the launching of a boat. To the question in terms of the width, that occurs to me as I'm looking at this is the remaining budget for the project is approximately $1 million. The boat launch by itself is $626,000. If council was interested in making it slightly wider, there is some money left over in this budget to look at some additional width. We could certainly, if council is interested, staff could certainly look into, making an extra 5 meters or 3 meters wide or 2 meters wide or whatever that might be. There is still some remaining money in this budget above and beyond the $626,000 for the boat launch itself. So if council had some interest in making it slightly wider, we could certainly look what we could do with those remaining funds to stay in budget, but to make it slightly wider.
And just to also add, if there were changes that would delay the project, and then it would also have to go back for further approvals on that. So that would be the only comment on that.
Councillor Slipchuk?
Was this system like similar to the one at the English Bay at Cold Lake? The launch pad? Like they got the two together there.
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that launch myself.
I don't believe they're as wide as what you're talking here. I've used that one quite out numerous times. Little issues with backing in and that, and with big boats coming alongside them, like a big one, there were little issues. And as well as I'd like to know, would you have an idea of how many users how many times it's used during the season?
Through the reef. No, that's part of the numerics that and metrics we want to kind of start watching and seeing how much usage are these launches and areas getting. We're putting significant investments in them, but how many users are they attracting and stuff? So that's definitely something we want to start measuring. So we have that answer for you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Swire?
I have similar questions to what I had last time when it was proposed, though, and I'm just still concerned that we only had one tender. And so we have no idea what this should cost, just whatever this company's saying it's going to cost. And so we really don't know, like we talked about some other docking systems that you're talking about, or ramps, and kind of just be nice to know that somebody else has built them and they're similar prices, and not, we don't find out we're paying double what we should be because we only had one tender on it. So that's my concern. I have no idea what other ones would have cost.
Yeah, and through the reef, just to comment that we can easily cancel this tender and then reissue it. Again, it just delays everything.
Well, no, yeah, I would say, I'm not saying cancel, I'm just saying I wish we knew. Like, I wish we had to I'm not saying we didn't put effort into it, but kind of phoned a few other people, say, what did it cost you to put in something similar, or spec it out, like, concrete-wise, and how much work is there, and, because you always hate to find out that maybe you overpaid by double because there was only one tender, and that's it. Just my concern. I think it's a great project. When I build a house, I know what it's going to cost me, and yeah.
Deputy Reeve?
Yeah, it's kind of like building a house on a regular ground versus building a house on a cliff, right? Two different specs, and there's only specialists that are doing it 90 feet out. That's a long way. Yeah, it's a good question, but a tough one. When you only have one company that has can put it in their scope, and they're the pros at it. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah, so just kind of rebuttal that, though. We only got one tender, so we have no idea how many companies are out there that may do this. So, I mean, I'd rather spend, a few days and maybe call the city, call some of these municipalities that have already built these and say, who's doing it for, who did it, what did they charge you? Just so I don't want to be, snowed at the end here and realize, wow, we got a great thing here, but we paid way too much.
Yes.
Mr. Reeve, members of the council, there's really only two choices with the tender. It's either to accept the tender or reject the tender.
Yeah.
We can certainly, once council makes a decision, see what other people are spending, but at the end of the day, tender went out. It went out through Western Canada. There were multiple inquiries into the tender, but at the end of the day, only one company offered a bid on it. It could be the complexity of the job, it could be the location, it could be multiple reasons. So it'll be entirely up to council, but you could cancel the tender, and we could certainly go back out to tender for the spring, but again, that will delay the project by a full year. Or we could leave it and build it. The other thing that could happen, if you re-tendered, it could come back in at a higher price than a lower price. Prices are not going down. So, and given that there's only one company interested in 2022, you may get two companies interested, but
Well, also my comment is, when they tendered, they didn't know if there was 3 other companies tendering. So obviously they have to do their math, or else they know they're the only one. So then that's their gain, I guess. But when you're tendering, it could be 10, it could be 1, it could be 2. So they don't know that. So that's another. So any other
Yeah.
discussion? Yes.
Is there a problem with the current boat launch that's there right now?
Yes, through the reef. The current boat launch is deteriorated past its point of rehabilitation. So we asked this question to the engineers and stuff, and it's passed. It's too short, too small for the amount of traffic that Moose Lake is seeing right now. So that's why this is brought forward, because that would be obviously our first option would be, look, can we rehabilitate this and use that? It's already in place. Maybe there's something we can do, but right now we had to haul in a bunch of washed rock to fill in the cracks and holes there because numerous vehicles are getting their trailers and stuff hung up on it. So yeah, it's
Councillor Swigert, then Councillor Scarson.
So what's the schedule for work? Are they going to actually start right away?
yes, through the reef. I asked that question again as after the last council meeting, they had said that they would start immediately. And I asked if this is now going to delay this by coming now to this council meeting. They asked again, and they're still trying to, said they're ready to mobilize immediately, so.
Councillor Scarson?
Yeah, just going to add that, yeah, this has been like 2 years in the making or even longer, and they've been doing Band-Aids on that boat launch for quite a while, and it is a busy launch for sure. I still have a little bit of concern about the dock that's in there, the part that sits out over winter. I mean, you can't move that, right? And you can't move the direction it points, so I don't understand how you're going to come straight in still with a boat launch on one side of it. Right, because you know what I'm talking about, right? The part that's in there with the cement blocks, it points right at. So now, are you going to have it's going to be angled off to accommodate this, or what? You know what I mean?
Through the reef, talking to the engineers, they believe that there's enough movement in there that should be able to accommodate. There may be need for a couple adjustments. To a couple of the pilings for the current dock, but nothing significant, they figured, so.
Well, because you're taking it from being in the middle to putting it all the way to one side, right? The dock? It'll have to, because you don't have room to do 9 meters on one of those sides of that dock.
Through the reef, from my understanding, what they're gonna be doing is kind of leveling out and angling it. More so, but I'd have to confirm
Yeah.
that.
Okay, and then I don't think I think the width is fine, right? It's going to be lots of room. You're right. It's just again, if you're going to see it once in a while, someone that's in the middle or whatever. And so, if you had some kind of markers, I think ideally on both sides, like it is now, if it was pushed out another 10 feet or whatever, that'd be perfect, right? But I guess I understand why you can't. I'm curious to see how that dock goes out after and meets up with the rest of the dock that's out there, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's pointed in the right spot. We've talked about moving those cement pillars before, and that's going to be pretty impossible to do, I think, right?
Yeah. I have to check.
Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion? Yes?
So during belly and stock, we'll have like MD staff looking, or experts, or workers looking at it, overseeing and making sure everything's looking, going good. We checking on it every day.
Uh,
While doing the work's going on.
Through the reef, during construction, that's, yeah, part of the engineering company. They'll be kind of overseeing the project, and then obviously we'll be out there and stuff checking too, so.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, through the reef to council, just to, so council understands how we do these things. We hire two separate companies. One obviously is the engineering firm who's responsible for project design and then project management. And then obviously the contractor will come and do the work. So the primary watching of what goes on site will be done by the engineering firm that we've hired specifically to design it and to manage that particular project. Staff could certainly go out, but we don't have any staff who are trained in building those kind of boat launches, so we kind of rely on the engineers to do that, so.
All right, thank you. We have a motion moved by Councillor Scarson on behalf of council, that council directs administration to proceed with replacement of Vezo Beach boat launch portion of the Vezo Beach boat launch and mooring system project as outlined in Schedule A on July 21st, 2022 tender to be funded from the 2022 capital budget, and furthermore, that council cancels the provisional mooring system portion of the project as outlined on Schedule B of the tender. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Carried, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve and council.
Yeah, I think that that launch is probably the same one I used back in 1984 when I was a teenager.
I think we'll take a 5-minute break. Okay, welcome back. I believe we have a delegation at 10. That's you guys, right? Sure. So if you guys are here, if there's nobody else coming, we can start early. Welcome.
Thank you for seeing us, and you guys will have to excuse my ignorance on this. This is the first time I've been in a council chambers like such as this, so I'm not exactly sure the protocol. If you wanted me to read through kind of what you might have in front of you, or if you wanted to just get to the meat and potatoes of what's going on.
Oh, you can go meat and potatoes. That'd be okay.
Excellent. So essentially, we're here on behalf of Bonnyville Amateur Football. Of course, we are the main custodians of Ray Scott Athletic Park, which is home of Walsh Field. In 2017, Walsh Field was transformed into what it is now. It's a top-end athletic facility in Bonnyville. So this is only one of 2 facilities in Alberta that a level 3 track event could be hosted on. So we could host a national championship or an IAAF meet here. It's also a level 4 grade field. So basically it's the same field as NFL. Throughout the last several years, the operational costs of the field has started to outgrow the Bonnyville Amateur Football Club, simply in the way of maintenance, the way of insurance, and the way of powering for the lights, all of those things. So I'm just going to briefly go with it. You guys, I know every one of you has been there before, so we don't have to get into too much of the nitty-gritty that we have written out here, but so 120 youth participate in programming from mid-August to mid-November in our football program. 90 participate in programming from late May to early June. Prior to 2017, the Lakeland Yellow Jackets Club, working with the town of Bonnyville, completed the asphalt portion of an 8-lane running track, which actually helped us when we built that, because if we hadn't done that, to build the track would have cost us even more. So because we had a great foundation, we were able to lay down the rubber, and now we have that level of track. Due to cost overruns, portions of the project were left unrealized. So I don't know if everybody realizes that when we built the track, we put in all the infill. The infill is very, very expensive. We had the infill tested before we laid the infill into the field. The testing came back positive, that it was perfect, exactly what we needed. The infill is the gravel so that the rubber sits on and it's the draining process of the field. Once we put it in, the guys who said that it was good came back and looked at it, and something didn't seem right to them, so then they took periodic core samples around the field, and it came back that it was incorrect. So the sample that they took from and the sample that they got was right, but they must have not done proper sampling around the pile that they used. So all that infill had to come out. And then the infill, we had to put more infill back in. So hence the project is left unfinished. So there's two things that I'm here about today. One is our operational costs and one is completing the project. The facility is used by both high schools for up to 180 hours per school year. In 2021, each high school donated $1,500 to BAFA to help cover the operational costs. It is estimated that upwards of 20,000 people make use of the facility per year. I think that number is low. Myself and my counterpart, who's not here, argued on that. If we think about it, I'm gonna bet it's closer to 30,000 come through those gates every year from April 1 to November 1. So that's MD, Town of Bonnyville, people from Cold Lake, doesn't matter where it is, I'm gonna say about 30,000 come through those gates every year. All maintenance is performed by association volunteers. All maintenance expenses are carried by BAFA. BAFA works together with Lakeland Yellow Jackets to help manage the facility and events. Our challenges. Our current lease makes BAFA responsible for all repairs, upkeeps to the lease portion of the property. Bonnyville Amateur Football is not looking for help to run our organization. That is our responsibility and our responsibility alone to do, and we will continue to do so. But in the 8 months of the year that football is not using it, we still have to pay for the insurance, the vandalism, the upkeep, the maintenance, the power. Everything runs through our nonprofit football organization. Essentially, our 120 kids pay for that facility for the community to use. Up until the last couple of years, you know what, for how beautiful that facility was, we were kind of fine with that. It is what it is. It was the trade-off that we gave, but the costs are just starting to rise, and it's just starting to be too hard for our nonprofit organization. So the vandalism, this one really gets me, you guys. Somebody went to the middle of that field here over the last 2 weeks and cut a hole in it. They cut the carpet out. So Coach Larry and I went in and we glued it back down. We put infill back down. We set the glue. A week later, somebody came back and finished the job. So we're gonna go back out there tonight and we're gonna try and glue that back in. On the left corner of the field, so it would be the southeast corner, somebody lit it on fire. The railing going up the stands, somebody tore the railing out. Barry, you were there, you'd seen that when I was talking about that. We had to go up there with lag bolts and screw it back in. Some of the under supports were bent. It is what it is when you have a facility like this that's open like that. There was talk when we first built the facility of having a 6-foot fence around with 3 gates and gates locked, just like Cold Lake. That wasn't the part of that when we built that field. Ray Scott didn't donate the money so that we can lock it up like a prison, excuse the expression, but it's the truth. And Coach Brian Walsh, who started this program in 1985, would have lost his marbles if that's what we did. It was meant to be a community thing for community use. If you walk on that field, it's like a cloud, that track, all of these things. And we have no problem maintaining that facility. We really don't. And I will continue. I don't care if I got to spend 10 hours a week. And that's usually what I do, spend is about 10 hours a week outside of football and outside of work to maintain it. Coach Larry does a lot too. Coach Robbie Collins helped quite a bit. He stepped up there. He's new these last couple of years. And we have no issues with that. We just need a little bit of help though with the operating of it and the maintenance of it. Something you guys should know is we are going to the town today too, looking to see if they'll join us in a small operating budget to help maintain the facility. So I'm sorry I'm jumping all over, but we'll go right into our improvements. So is our project expense. Add concrete, shot put circle, and grass javelin throwing area. Purchase portable all-weather discus throwing platform, $15,000. Upgrade and improve existing landscape grass and graveled areas, $30,000, and complete originally planned buildings underneath the current spectator stands. That'd be visitor change room, storage, meeting spaces, and public change rooms. And you can see the cost on that. We're looking for 150 from the MD, 150 from the town. This is not right now. This is just something I want to be out there so you guys know that may be coming. We're looking to do matching grants with that money, and then the rest would be through corporate sponsorships. So the reason that we're big on the visitor change rooms is that it does help football, but I've been involved with Athletics Alberta for many years. My son's a high-level track athlete. He's an NCAA scholarship athlete, and I've had Athletics Alberta ask me a couple of times about our track because of the quality of the track to host provincials, for club provincials. This brings in anywhere from 400 to 600 competitors with their parents and everything else to the town for 3 to 4 days. The problem why we can't host that is we do not have the throw-in areas, we do not have the change rooms, the bathrooms, and the meeting spaces. So because of that, we kind of get shut down on that. The only thing we could possibly do, there it is, thank you. The only thing we could possibly do is speak with the school, see if they would open that up, but that's can be a challenge. So, and we can't expect the school to be opening it up for a public event like that, a club event like that. So, that is kind of where we are with finishing that project. Now, these numbers were from 2019. As everybody knows, the world has changed in the last 2 years. These numbers might be a little bit low. We are going to be digging in and actually getting some better quotes for 2022, 2023 to see what it is. Cost of steel is up, cost of manpower is up, everything is different from 2019. So today, though, we're asking for $12,000 a year for an operating fund to help us keep operating our facility, keep maintaining it. We're asking for the same amount from the town. That's $24,000, and then the Bonnyville Amateur Football Association will take care of the rest. Right now, our current expenses, not including maintenance, is $20,000. That's how much it costs BAFA to our insurance, our lighting, our water, but the water isn't anybody else's problem, that's just BAFA's themselves. And basic maintenance, for example, the spray paint. So everyone likes to go to the towers and spray paint. We just bring paint out there and cover it up. The leg bolts, replacing bolts on the stairs. People run stairs up there constantly. Stairs get wrecked, we just go and we fix it. Things like that. Fixing the fence, minor stuff, it's about $20,000 a year. To do anything major, any major maintenance, which it's starting to, the facility is getting older, we are gonna have to start doing stuff, we're gonna be far superior than $20,000 a year. And that is gonna come directly out of BAFA. So, sorry if I rambled, but that's where we're at. Any questions?
Yes, we have.
Fire away.
Deputy Reeve Fideo.
Hey, how you guys doing? Thanks for all the work you guys do. So in regards to like a fundraiser, have you guys ever thought about doing like a membership drive? So to be a member of the Walsh Field, charge them, $10 to be a member, and that goes towards maintenance costs and your overhead.
So that would be not outside of BAFA, you mean anybody that comes and uses the facilities? So similar to like the C2.
Yeah.
I agree, that's a great idea, but how would we police that?
How would you police that?
Yeah.
It's easy. Make some phone calls to your other, make a phone call to C2. I don't know, right? But I mean, I would buy a membership like yearly if I knew that was going to maintain the cost of the field.
Yeah.
Even though a lot of our stuff is done in Coal Lake, but we have used it for track and games. Me as a quote unquote user would easily pay a $10, $20 membership per year to have that maintained and for you guys not to lose any money, right? So it's almost like a pay to play.
Yeah, and that is something that we could definitely look at, but we might only get, and I hate to say it like this, 25 honest people. And then the other 500 or 1,000 that use it would just go on to the facility and use it. We would actually have to have somebody to go there and be like, is your membership paid? Do you have a wristband?
I think there's a lot of good faith on people as well, right?
Yeah.
I think, I know a lot of camping grounds, they won't have like an attendant at all.
No, they have the box.
They have a box,
Yeah.
and most people pay generally, right? So, it's, yeah, for sure. So on your list of asks, I don't see at all the school boards being asked for any money. Have you guys approached them at all? Because for the club provincials, this is not a public event. This is a school event. It's a track. It is
Not a
part
Club
of.
Provincials. Club Provincials is not school. Club Provincials is like club soccer, Rhinos
Okay.
volleyball type.
So it's the other one.
It's the other one.
Okay.
High school provincials,
Yeah.
same thing. They have asked. They do want to come here, but we still have to. That's something that we could do, because then the schools would have to get involved and help us,
Right,
right,
okay.
with everything
Yeah,
else.
thanks for clarifying that, yeah. So have you guys, like, are you guys gonna be in front of them at all?
Yeah, so the schools, we have been in front of them, and they've committed to $1,500 a year each school board.
Each school board, just 1,500?
Yeah.
Because like half of my taxes that I pay, right, go towards schools, and,
Yes, sir.
so 1,500. Like, are you sure you're not missing a zero on there?
No, sir, I'm,
No.
no. Yeah.
Yeah, right? Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Yeah, go ahead. Councilor Subchick.
I see it says you guys leased property from the Catholic School Board.
Yes.
What do they charge you for a lease?
Nothing. Our commitment is that we take care of the facility, so we take care of all cutting the grass, weed eating, maintenance, maintaining the facility, and it's a 30-year lease, $1 type of deal. But it's our responsibility to maintain the facility and the grounds.
So you keep the grounds all upkept and everything, and
Absolutely,
so
yeah.
for $1,500 a year, boy, they're getting a deal.
Well, you know, I'll tell you, I haven't had much dealings with the school boards. Other members in our executive sure have. From my understanding, this is secondhand news, is they have given us the property at no charge. We turned the property into a $6 million facility, but they give us the property at no charge, and so they feel that that is their contribution to Walsh Field.
Yeah, that's why I bring it up, because we've provided funding for school playgrounds and everything. It's always the parents and everybody has to in the community, and we give for these playgrounds. And we don't see the school boards ever really contribute a big amount or anything. And I'd like to see if we could do something there and work with them and to have discussions with them, open up, and see if they could contribute more to our community.
Councilor Swigert.
Thanks for that, Councillor Slipchuk. I'd love to have the school board come and we'll have a discussion with them, because we've never done that. But yeah, it's frustrating, right? Like I think that's on school property, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So they allowed you to have that, but they're not really supporting it very well, I don't think. I wanted to ask you about the community operating grant, though, and I'm not sure if one of our staff members has to kind of chime in on that. You say you're not on an approved list, so how do we get you on an approved list so you could actually apply for some of our grants? Do you know, or?
No, I don't.
Mr. Hogan, do you have anybody who can talk to that?
Through the Reeves, Councillor Swigert, and the rest of council, that would go through Ms. Kienbau's department, Community and Planning Services. They manage all the community grants.
So I'm not sure what you'd have to be to get on an approved list. I think if you were a society, you could, but I guess you're not a society. I'll ask Ms. Kienbau to respond.
Oh,
I'm Ms. Kienbau. Try to say that one.
Don't do it.
Through the Reeve, so to get on the list on our community operating grant, it's actually all established through policy. So when we bring forward, if there is any requests from council to direct us to explore other recipients to add to that list, that normally is what normally spearheads any changes to the policy or the people listed on it. Currently, I can tell you that we don't have any specific sports-related organizations on our list for our community operating grant. However, it's really at the request of council that this is explored.
All right, thank you for that information.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, Councillor Scarson.
Yeah, so I think that, I mean, I'm 100% supportive of anything we can do for these guys. One thing I think that is missed or not noted is that, you know, when you think of all the sports that go on around this area, well, you know, baseball, the town and the MD look after all the diamonds, the hockey, the MD and the town look after the arena, soccer is the same. You know, these guys with the football and the track are really the only ones that look after everything themselves, right? So, you know, that'd be one point I would make to the town as well, that you just want what everyone else is getting already, right? So, I think it's an easy one, for sure. The amount of work that these guys do and put in that facility to keep it as one of the best in Alberta is awesome, right? So I'll definitely be bringing it up at budget time, for sure.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah,
Yes,
Mr. Just
Councillor.
one more. You mentioned football and track. So BAFA kind of does all the work and sort of funds it and keeps it going, but aren't there other groups that are using it that maybe don't contribute?
So Lakeland Yellow Jackets, we are about $3,500 a year that we contribute, and then with myself being on the Lakeland Yellow Jackets board, we contribute that way, and our parents volunteer as well. The other groups you're saying outside, we do bill a $25 an hour rate for if soccer wanted to come in, or lacrosse. We have lines on the field, for example, for soccer and lacrosse. It's a multi-purpose field. It can be used for 9-man football, 12-man football, flag football, lacrosse, soccer. It can be used. Some of the other organizations aren't real happy about having to pay $25 an hour for having to use the field. They think that it should be free. And we've tried to express to them, you know, we understand that concern. They're nonprofits as well, but like Mr. Scarson has said, that facility is wholly taken care of and ran by Bonnyville Amateur Football, which makes it a little bit unique to any other sports clubs in this area. Any other sports clubs, I would actually say, in this province. I do not know if you will find another facility like that that is ran by the nonprofit whose home and base it's been for the last 35 years. And I understand, because it's school property, I understand the challenges here. I've been around long enough, I've heard different sides of it, and I get that there are challenges here. I understand that it's school property, so you're essentially giving money to a nonprofit or to an organization like BAFA to maintain school property. It's essentially is what it is. I understand that. But unfortunately, we're caught in the middle of it. So that was our facility, that's what we had built, and we're just trying the best that we can to keep it running. And maintained, yeah.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for coming in today, and presentation, you did very well.
Thank you.
Have a great day, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, just looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept option 1.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Slipchick. On behalf of council, that council accepts the presentation by Bonnyville Amateur Football Association as information, and furthermore directs administration to bring back additional information regarding their request for funding for improvements to the Ray Scott Athletic Park to a future meeting of council for consideration. Any other discussion on this?
Yeah, Mr. Reid, just to clarify, it's not just improvements though, is it? Because right now they're just asking for kind of operational, not, because they had improvements also. So I'm not sure if do we need more clarity on that, or you okay with it, I guess?
I'm okay with that.
Okay. All righty.
All right, I'll call for the vote then. Okay, carried, thank you. Would you like to go to your delegation now? Since you're here, I don't know if anybody else is coming.
No,
All right. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Reid, Council, CEO.
Morning.
I'm only a one-woman show, so nobody else is coming.
That's a pretty good show.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, I have hounded you the last time in 2019 for funding for taking care of the overpopulation of feral stray and barn cats we have within the MD. And just to give you a few of the stats, what happened in the last 5 years. So in 2018, the MD had funded $6,800 for a pilot clinic. And the clinic was free, and it was 1 cat per household. I had asked people for donations that made use of the clinic that day, and altogether we fixed 61 cats that year. Then in 2019, the council decided to give the funding to the SPCA, and I had to kind of reinvent my wheel. So I approached Dr. Benoit if he would be fine that we would continue offering a price-reduced spay and neuter program with the prices that he extends to me, because the need is actually there all year long. There's not only the need there one day, one clinic a year. The people have the problem midwinter, midsummer, anytime. So then we done that, and it was slow start. In 2019, we had fixed only 13 cats. In 2020, we doubled the number to 26, and I was looking forward to 21 and said, well, if we double that number again, we start doing pretty good. Some of the girls that had fixed cats through my program actually started sharing the information, and we ended up fixing 109 cats in 2021, which was quite a number and amazing. And this year, with cats that I have booked in for surgery until October 7th, we're looking at 86 cats so far we're fixing, which brings the number in total for the last 5 years to 295. If we're thinking that maybe this is females only is 176, if we're thinking that maybe only first generation a cat had 10 kittens a year, we're looking at alone 1,760 kittens that are not running around in the MD because of these cats haven't been fixed. In costs, we're looking at about $38,500 for all of these cats that have been fixed, with the costs, except for the $6,800 from the MD, being carried by the residents. And most of the times, these cats are not theirs. Like I had just a contact from a lady that said she bought a new property with the MD, and with that property she inherited 14 cats. So now it's up to her to fix them all, or make out of them 14 maybe really quickly a heck of a lot more. I have a few ladies that are what I call my star fixers. It's a young lady from Malek. She fixed by herself 14 already. A lady from the town of Bonnyville, she's at 7. And a lady from the MD had fixed 9 cats through my program. But I know that she has done way more like that on her own before and in between using my program. Then I also wanted to tell you the calls that I have coming in from people and the reactions. I often get people contacting me, and then when it comes to the pricing, they're like, oh, this is not free. Well, no, it's not. Then what am I supposed to do with the cats? All the SPCAs are full. What I'm supposed to do with the kittens I found? SPCAs are full. I can't keep them. And I can't afford to fix all these dropped off cats at my farm. I had a senior lady on the outskirts of Bonnyville. She said, I'm the first farm coming out of town. It seems everyone stops at my place and drops everything off, and she's not able to afford all of that. On the other hand, I have the positive calls that really praise the program, and are happy that it exists. I have people as far as Smoky Lake County that have called me and asked if the Bellis vet is part of the program, which unfortunately is not possible for her. But I'm covering the MD of Bonnyville and the county of St. Paul, and there's so much need, it is crazy. I have a friend that done a Facebook online auction for me and got me some funds, and with these funds I offer a 3+1 promotion. If people bring in 3 females, I pay the 4th. If they bring in 3 males, I pay the 4th. If they bring a gender mixed group, they get a male paid. And try to encourage people that have like a larger populations in their yard that they start fixing those, because they can even quicker get out of hand and a cat here or there. I had the hope that we would by now see more results when it comes to every summer the ads on Infomall, kittens to give away. There's still lots to give away, so the need is still there and more needs to be done. And yeah, I wanted to bring this forth and start hounding council again if there's a possibility that you might think that you could contribute to this program in a way that I might further reduce the prices for people, or give better promotions for people, or something like that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Yeah, Councillor Scarson.
So I thought that the money that we give the SPCA was supposed to go towards this. Wasn't that part of the?
That, I'm not here to talk for the SPCA. That would be then, I would ask the president of the SPCA to come forth and give a separate presentation. This is strictly for what I'm doing for my program. I had gotten the funding the 1 year, and this is what has happened since. This is my stats and the work that I do.
Yeah, now
Yeah,
just
Councillor
some
Swiger.
maybe clarity, because Silka was actually kind of the starter of the program for cats, and yeah, there was 50,000 that was actually put aside to do that, but then it ended up going to the SPCA, and I'm not sure even how much they do for that spay-neuter program. I'm not sure what they're doing with the 50,000. So I guess I'll ask the question. You're not here to talk about the SPCA, but maybe I'll ask, sorry, Mr. Gandolfi, because you kind of are the keeper of the money, I think, or whatever, because we do have a budget for 50,000 a year, I think.
That's correct, Council Srigut, through the Reeve. We do have a budget of $50,000 every year that we allocate to the SPCA for the running of their organization, and also out of that money comes a spay and neuter program. So how many they spay and neuter? I did speak to Silka about this, I think it was last year. So they had, she was affiliated at that point, and perhaps maybe now is no longer affiliated. So we do give 50,000 to the SPCA. Portions of that has to come out for their spay and neuter program. So if this is a separate ask, then it's the first.
Yeah, these have nothing to do with each other, so,
No.
Well, I think they did it one time, right?
okay.
Yeah, and just a little side note, I'm now encouraged by a lady of the MD to maybe start fixing existing colonies that we know of in town and in the MD, and that brings then new challenges, because I told her if I start looking into that and if I start trying to generate funds for that, it starts already that I would need a building that is heated and have air conditioning if we go all year long. Because the females have their bellies shaved, and if we're looking at -20, -30 in winter, doing something like that, they have to be housed until the fur grows back and they can be released outside again, or they will get some frostbites really easy. And in summer, with that heat that we had this year, if we would stick them in a building, then it would have to be a building that is air conditioned. So it's all a big challenge to do something, and it's all, a lot of is stopped by the money. And I feel kind of bad for the residents of the MD that battle this problem, that the costs are really alone onto them. The vet clinic, and thank you very much to Dr. Benwar and his staff, that he's so dedicated to try to fix the overpopulation. Without him, I wouldn't have a program. And without the reduced rates that he's willing to provide, a lot of people could just simply not do it, not even with, like, the normal price is not at all, and some people can't even do it with the reduced pricing.
Okay, yeah, Councillor Crick.
What is the normal price and the reduced price?
I don't know what the pet prices are. I only know the prices that are given to me, which is 165 for a female and 80 for a male, plus GST, and plus any extra costs. Like if they need any other medical care, that goes extra.
Mr. Reveal, just another question. We have a motion here. I could move that motion or present that motion, but just a bit more information. So you haven't detailed at all how much money you think you would like to do and how many cats that would do or whatever. So we can ask for that later.
Yeah, I can put something together. I have not thought about a specific amount, because honest to God, I'm happy for anything I can get. Because I do all of this volunteer-wise, like I don't get anything out of this program. I book the appointments with the vet, I send the paperwork to the people they have to fill out, I send it back to the vet with additional stuff they need, and yeah, so I'm happy every dollar that I get, every cent of that dollar goes strictly towards the cats.
Okay, thank you for your presentation, appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, Council, just looking for a motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion as it's presented there, that we accept that presentation, and we'll ask for more information maybe from Mr. Gandolfi. And
In a later date?
yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, thank you, Councillor Swiger, for making a motion on behalf of Council that Council accepts the presentation by Lakeland Rural Cat Spade and Neuter Clinic as information, and furthermore directs administration to bring back additional information regarding the request for funding, support, and input on animal bylaw to the future meeting of Council for consideration. Any discussion on this motion or any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Carried, thank you. Have a great day. I believe we're on to 9.3, is that correct? 9.31?
9.2.3.
Sorry, 9.2. Yes, sorry about that, 9.2.3, thank you.
This item is a request for donation towards the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation 2022. The MD of Bonnyville has received a request from the Lakeland Society for Truth and Reconciliation for a monetary donation of $1,800 towards the 2022 National Day for Truth and Reconciliation events held on various days between September 24th and 30th this week at varying locations in Bonnyville, Alberta. Enclosed for Council's consideration in Appendix A is the request letter for the donation, as well as the proposed itinerary for those events. The costs and sources of funding, this is an $1,800 cost donation. Recommended source of funding is from the 2022 operating budget, grants to individuals and non-government agencies. Administration's recommended action is that Council approves a donation in the amount of $1,800 towards the 2022 National Day for Truth and Reconciliation as requested by the Lakeland Society for Truth and Reconciliation to be funded from the 2022 operating budget. I'll further mention that this request does fall within the parameters of our donations and sponsorship policy.
Thank you. Looking for a motion.
Mr. Reed, I'll just
Yeah.
ask for more
Councillor.
detail, though, on kind of who's funding it, where's the funding going, what are they doing? It's kind of, we're a bit late into this, aren't we? Because it's already happening, and they're asking for funding now, so I'm not sure. Do we have any kind of detail on how, I don't know, like this is very new, right, of course, and the society is, I guess, registered society of, has that been running for a couple of years, or is this new to them too?
Through the REEV, yes, they are a registered society. We did confirm that with the provincial registries. As far as the donation itself, they are recommending that this goes towards, because all of the events of the day are free. For example, in the letter it says they're offering lunch at no charge and is currently their largest expense. We did not receive a breakdown of the costs associated with the event. However, it does sound like it's going straight to the costs of the event, and that's just from the letter.
Councillor Crick.
Yeah, I'll make motion number 3 that council accepts this donation request as information, and just if they need funds, they can put out a donation dish at the events and people can donate. I don't think this is something that everybody in the MD wants to donate their tax dollars towards, so I think it's better just to receive it as information.
All right, thank you, Councillor Crick, for.
Can I just ask?
Yep.
Yeah, for some clarity. So you're saying 3? So what 3 says is the council accept a donation request, that we accept the request for $1,800. As information. As information? Okay, okay, sounds good.
Okay, we have a motion by Councillor Crick on behalf of council that council accepts the donation request for the 2022 National Day of Truth and Reconciliation from Lakeland Society for Truth and Reconciliation as information. Any discussion on this motion? Okay, I'll call for the vote. This motion is defeated. Who would like to make another motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept option 1 and approve this request.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Slipchik makes a motion on behalf of council that council approves a donation in the amount of $1,800 towards the 2022 National Day for Truth and Reconciliation as requested by the Lakeland Society for Truth and Reconciliation to be funded from the 2022 operating budget. Any discussion on this motion? Deputy Reeve Fadeev.
Yeah, I just, my only concern is we don't have a budget in front of us, what they're spending it on. We don't have any other information of who else is, like donating. I know they're gonna ask the town of Bonnyville and the MD, but, what other communities are donating to this, and what kind of funding are they getting from the feds and the province. So I just, yeah, more information would be nice to have for their ask, and that's my only concern.
Yes, Councillor Scarson.
Yeah, I don't argue those points. I mean, I think with this one, it's kind of obvious where the money is going, or at least hope it is. And I would ask, like, do you get a, like a financial report after all of your requests for donations and stuff, like budgets and where money was spent and all that kind of stuff?
Through the REIV, through the donations and sponsorship policy, there is no requirement for them to submit a breakdown. It is an optional. It does help with the review and the confirmation of approval if they do provide that breakdown of information pre-ask or with their request. However, as far as a reporting requirement for that policy, there is no report required for donations provided.
Yeah, okay, and like I said, I see your point. I think this is a small one, that I don't, the headache of not doing it, I think, is not worth it. It's an easy one to do, and honestly, I mean, if the town or the feds, that has no bearing on my decision anyways. I make a decision because I want to support it, so, or I feel our people want to support it, so. It's a simple one, I think, so.
I just want to say I agree with Councillor Scarson on this as well. We should support this.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Carried.
Thank you.
All right, on to 9.3.1, correct?
Good morning, Mr. Reeve.
Hey, good morning.
Today I have two RFDs. The first referring to policy number 4B.011, domestic wastewater disposal at municipal wastewater lagoons policy. Proposal and background. Administration is proposing to rescind policy number 4B.011, domestic wastewater disposal at municipal wastewater lagoons policy, as it is no longer required following the closure of all sewage treatment facilities to outside haulers. Discussion at the regular meeting of council on June 22nd, 2022. Council passed a motion to close all sewage treatment facilities owned and operated by the MD of Bonnyville to outside haulers effective August 1st, 2022. Since policy 4B.011 refers solely to the use of the lagoons by outside haulers, it is no longer required and should be rescinded. The Committee of the Whole reviewed the proposal to rescind this policy on September 21st, 2022, and are recommending that it be rescinded. Attached for the Council's review is Appendix A, copy of Policy 4B.011, Domestic Wastewater Disposal at Municipal Wastewater Lagoons Policy. Administration recommends that Council rescinds Policy 4B.011, Domestic Wastewater Disposal at Municipal Lagoons Policy, as it is no longer required.
Thank you. Councillor Scarson.
Yes, so, I mean, if somewhere down the road, we ended up having to, you know, either build a lagoon or expand or open up the lagoons again, it's just as simple as bringing this policy back to reinstate, I guess.
Through the REIV, a new policy would need to be established. The issue right now, as I understand, is we have a policy that we cannot conform to because it is not allowed to dump in those lagoons, so.
Yeah,
Through the REIV to Councillor Scarson is absolutely correct. Just be a simple resolution to council to reinstate the policy.
yes. Any other comments? Just looking for a motion then. Yeah, Councillor
I
Scarson.
just want to add too that I guess that we want to make sure that this doesn't mean that for the public's input is that we are not, you know, shutting the door on any kind of lagoon talk going forward, right? This is not kind of the end of the road. So it's, we still have lots of work to do on getting the lagoons proper in this area, and this is not kind of putting the end to it, right? So.
Thank you. Just looking for a motion.
I'll make that motion, option 1, the council rescinds policy 4, I can't even read that, 4B, looks like an 8, 011, domestic water waste disposal and municipal lagoons policy as no longer needed, required.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Reeve Fideo, for making a motion on behalf of council. The council rescinds policy number 4B011, domestic water disposal and municipal lagoon policy as no longer required. Any discussion on this motion?
Mr. Reeve, just.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, just to follow up with Councillor Scarson, I'm in favor of the motion, but, you know, going forward, we still have to have some discussion at council, like Councillor Scarson referred to, and yeah, it's not a dead issue, because there's lots of folks out there still concerned about where they're going to go, so I'm not sure if that's on a upcoming council agenda or committee as a whole. I'll ask the CAO.
Through the REIV to council, there is nothing planned at the administrative level. Council made the resolution. Council is now potentially in the next few minutes will rescind the policy. It would be at council's discretion to bring it back either at budget or some other time, but we have no direction for council to bring anything back for any future discussion on sewage lagoons.
Okay, thanks. And I'll just make sure that, you know, we kind of get together, I guess, and bring something back for administration later.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Carried, thank you. 9.3.2.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve. This RFD is Sunset Beach Road and drainage improvements update. The background: at the regular meeting of council on June 8th, 2022, administration provided an update to the execution plan to complete the Sunset Beach Road and drainage improvements project, which incorporated a less intrusive methodology than the previous conceptual plans. Council approved this update as presented. Discussion: since the June 8th, 2022 council meeting, this project has been substantially completed and was successful in achieving the desired results. Some of the highlights: a 24-inch diameter, 225-meter long, high-density polyethylene drainage pipe was bored across 463, allowing the surface runoff to flow through the MD of Bonnyville's municipal reserve. An outflow structure was constructed with erosion mitigation measures in place. The ditch on the east side of Range Road 463 was graded and a catch basin structure installed. There's a culvert at the north end of Sunset Beach has been cleaned out to ensure positive flow of rainfall and runoff water, and a new, more robust grate was installed at the inlet of this culvert. The rip and relay work has also been completed with some minor grade changes to reduce the chances of runoff breaching the road, as has happened in the past. No utilities were required to be relocated during the execution of this work. The original budget for this work was $1.6 million, with $133,500 spent prior to 2022. Administration anticipates the 2022 expenditures to be $716,000 for a total of $849,500. Administration recommends that council accepts the Sunset Beach Road and Drainage Improvements update as information.
Thank you. Mr. Hogan?
Thank you, Mr. Reeve. Members of the council, the original project prior to my arrival here was actually at one time as high as $5 million. That was reduced down to about $3.5 million through conversations and several different engineering firms. Staff brought to me way back in probably June of last year, why don't we consider doing this ourselves? So this is one of the first occasions where staff has actually come with a recommendation to do it themselves. And as you can see, at that time, we came back to council in the summer of last year and said this should cost us less than $1.6 million. And as it turns out, it's cost us half of that. Staff did a phenomenal job. Monty was in this project late. However, a lot of this, the credit for the success of this project will go to Todd, who really took it upon himself to be kind of a project manager on this. And I couldn't be happier with the job that got done and prouder of the people that did it and saved the MD literally millions of dollars on where we were 2 years ago with the original budgets for this. There had been some scope changes, which certainly decreased some of the expenditures, but even on what we thought we were going to come in at, we managed the project ourselves. We hired contractors to come in and do the work that we project managed, and as a result, we've got a phenomenal product at literally half of the budgeted price. So I just want to take my hat off to the men and women in transportation who put this project together, because they did a really, really good job.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I heard about that, and it's really great. Looking for a motion?
I'll make the motion for option number 1. The council accepts the Sunset Beach and drainage improvements update as information.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Reeve Fideo. That moves, sorry, something came up on my screen wrong. You went with that one up there, right? Correct. Okay. There we go. Deputy Reeve Fideu, on behalf of council, that council accepts the Sunset Beach Road and drainage improvements update as information. Sorry about that, guys. Any discussion on this? Yes.
Yeah, yeah, this is great. I would just like to make a comment after we vote, though, on this, so.
Okay, do you want to go in closed session or just?
No.
Good. Okay, any other discussion?
I'll just say I drove out and looked at it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I drove out there and looked at it, and it looks good, so yeah, I'm in favor of this.
All right. All right, I'll call for the vote. Oh, sorry.
I just want to say, great work by all the staff, how they try and strive to do the best for the MDA and save money as well, and the hard work they put in to the MD, so everybody knows out there that they are trying very hard.
Okay, thank you. I'll call for the vote now. Okay, carried, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Scarson.
Yeah, I guess so. Now that, it was a great project, and I mean, to come in way under budget is awesome. So, with that, since we are so much under budget, there is a short portion that we've discussed going into Moose Lane that I would like to make a motion that we do extend the paving out to the Moose Lane entrance, I guess you want to call it, and finish that little portion of the road, so.
Okay. How do we word that?
Well, I would just say, branch off from Sunset, Drive down to Moose Lane entrance, I guess, right? If that's the official name of the road.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Reeve?
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to support this as well. There's a lot of money remaining in the budget for this, so just get her done, I think. Thank you.
Okay. We'll wait to the motion, then we'll have discussion.
I might also add that administration has set the bar as to what a mile of road costs to rip and relay now, right? So next time we ask, it should be even less without a drainage pipe, right?
To the reef, to all the counselors, yeah, it's mainly the methodology used instead of open cutting it was the big savings here, for sure. And less disturbance to the vegetation, right?
Right.
Yeah, Mr. Reeve, Councillor Stipchak was absent during our discussion. Is he aware?
What is Moose Lane?
Moose Lane is the, through the reef to Councillor Stipchuk, Moose Lane is that little laneway on County MR that runs, when you pull into that approach at that resident, it runs, there's 2 or 3 houses down that Moose Lane. And Councillor Stipchuk is aware, Councillor Stipchuk actually attended with me to look at the property. I would add to Councillor Scarson's comments regarding the cost. This was an all-hands-on-board project. Nobody in the department had tackled a hydrology issue like this before. We had several engineering firms that had bid on this project back in 2019 and 2020, and they had made it quite complicated, and our people said, I think it's a lot simpler than that. We just need to take water from the east side of the road, it's all going downhill towards Moose Lake, and find a way to move it so that water ends up spilling onto our MR. We have a lot that's retained as MR on Sunset Beach Road. So it was really, there was a lot of head scratching, there was a lot of transit work trying to figure out elevations and how best to do this, and we've come up with a project that actually looks good, and we'll know better, I guess, next spring, depending on what we get for runoff. But we're hoping that it will remove a pile of that water that was going directly into people's garages at that end of Sunset Beach Road. So it was, it really was a collaborative effort between infrastructure, transportation, and some private contractors.
I'm sure it'll work as good as it looks. It looks fantastic.
So how far are they planning on paving the extension into Moose Lane?
I'm not sure.
I would say just into the entrance. I mean, like a typical approach would be 20 feet or whatever it might be. I don't know. Right? I would leave that to administration to determine into the length, but I mean, I would just consider it an approach like any other.
Through the reef to Councillor Scarson, I would propose that we go to the end of our property line, which in that area would cover what you're talking about.
All right, I'm just going to get this motion out of the way, then we're going to have other discussion. Moved by Councillor Scarson on behalf of Council that Council directs administration to extend the Sunset Beach project to include the paving extension to Moose Lane as directed. All right, any discussion? Councillor Crick.
Yeah, I drove out and had a look at it, and I think that they've done a great job. I don't see any everybody's as good or better off than they were before there. So I'm not in favor of us spending extra money on this here to extend the pavement just because somebody asked for it or something.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Yeah, Deputy Reeve Fadеев.
So, so in regards to, we're developing our MR only, or are we doing any private drives with the extension that you're?
Through the reef to Councillor Fadеев, the scope and the goal of this project was to tie in to the same or better than what was there previously, so that is how we tied in all the approaches. It is not a parallel road allowance to say it's not congruent the whole way through. It does have zigs and zags. That being said, if this does get approved, I don't believe we can go past our our property line where it meets the private owner's property line, so.
Yeah, Councillor Scarson.
Yeah, I would just add that this whole project started off because some residents asked for better drainage on their properties, right? So, I mean, everything is brought forward and because someone asked for it, right? So.
Yeah, Councillor Slipchuk.
What's the benefits for this extension on Moose Lane?
Through the reef to Mr. Slipchuk, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think there's any benefits. There would be less water flowing into a gravel approach as opposed to what is there now. It would be an improvement on what was there before. That being said, it may set a precedence as well for other people that have similar layouts, that they may request the same thing. So.
I don't think it would be a water issue because they already have groomed the area to take the water past those two residents that are there. They already cupped it's not a highway, it's just a secondary road, but it's cupped just before this great big approach, so it takes it away, right? Yeah, Councillor Scarson.
Again, I think there's a big difference here that if we were if we were paving someone's personal property as opposed to our own, right? I mean, it's still our road, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, our approach. I mean, if we were going down into someone's driveway or into their personal property, I think it's a much different issue, right? So.
Mr. Reeve, if I could add, so I think the point that Mr. Denenko was trying to make is the road has a certain width. I think this one was a 7.5 or 7.8 meter top. There is still gravel side on the road between the road and the private driveways. So there are private driveways that are paved that there's now gravel between their driveway and our road. I think the point Mr. Denenko was trying to make is, in the future then, are we going to be going right to the edge of the property line to give everybody pavement right to their driveway? I think that's really the question. It's fine if that's what council wants to do, but just understand that if somebody further down Sunset Beach Road says, well, I got 6 feet of gravel now on county right-of-way, MD right-of-way between my driveway, I'd like that paved as well.
Any other discussion? Yes, Councillor Craig.
Yeah, I just think if we start doing this, as like Mr. Denenko said, we could be setting a precedent and not one that we want to set. So, yeah, I don't think it's the right thing to do this time.
I'll have to agree with Councillor Crick on this. Like, this was brought forth because of a complaint by a resident, and we can get other ones. We're gonna have to fulfill them all then.
Any other discussion before I call for the vote? Yes, Councillor Kraviak.
Thank you, Mr. Kraviak. Everything comes to council because people have issues, so it's not just this one item. Everything we do is for our people, and that is our road, isn't it? Mr. Denenko, that's our road, right?
Through the reef.
Our approach.
To Councillor Krabiak, as I stated, is not parallel all the way through.
I understand.
Which say it's not the width. So there are other residences where it does jog in and out.
Yeah.
As the CAO mentioned, there's other. If we set a precedence by doing this one, then if the neighbor has the same layout, which there are a lot of similar layouts, the potential for them to request it is there.
Yeah, I still think we should support this. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Scarson.
I mean, we set precedents every day with every decision that we make. I mean, our last motion where we gave $1,800, we set precedents now that we're going to give them $1,800. So to me, it's a non-starter. We every day set precedents with every decision that we make. So.
Yeah, but that $1,800, it's part of our thing. So.
Yeah, I understand. I'm just using that for an example. Every decision we make is a new decision, right? So. Right.
Okay, I think everybody had their say. All right, I'll call for the vote. This motion is defeated. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome back. We have a delegation from Toma Consulting, and I'll just let them, I'm pretty sure that can you guys hear me up there?
Yes, not a problem.
Right on. I'll just get you guys to introduce yourselves, and then we'll get started with your presentation. Thank you.
Certainly. So we're both in Edmonton, different offices. There's two groups here. I'm with Toma Consulting Incorporated in Edmonton and helping lead the study and engagement phase for a new Indigenous protected and conserved area in Northeast Alberta called an IPCA. And joining me is Carrie Celine with Solstice Canada, an environmental consulting company. And we're working jointly on behalf of the MSGC, which is Métis Settlement General Council in Edmonton. The Métis Settlement General Council has 8 settlements it represents, and 2 of them are right in your area, Buffalo Lake and Kikino, and a couple of others a little further to the west. And so today we wanted to present this project that we're working on right now because it's an engagement project to get feedback from stakeholders, and you're right in the area, just a little south of the area. So we'll go through a few maps and explain what we're trying to achieve here. I'll just open up the PowerPoint. Can you see that okay?
Yeah, yes, we can, sir.
Okay, great. So, okay, so Mr. Chair, I'll just proceed along. If you have questions, we can certainly address them as needed.
I just have a comment. I don't think Kikino or Buffalo Lake is in our area. We're Elizabeth and Fishing Lake, I believe.
Right, okay, yeah. Yeah, and that's there's a few others as well. Okay, thank you for that comment. So again, this project is it's called an Indigenous Protected and Conserved Area, a feasibility study. We're doing the engagement part right now. Just to let you know, we started in about January. It got delayed a little bit because of COVID. And then we actively got started again in, let's say, April, and we've continued on with a number of meetings and so on, and we still have that in process. We're supposed to try to report about December to the client, and we've also will be reporting to the government of Alberta and others as we proceed through this process. So I'll just go through the slides fairly quickly. Here's a summary of the project. The Métis Settlement General Council, as I say, is our client. They are desiring an IPCA, and these are being set up across Canada. The project is government funded by the Government of Canada, and the Government of Alberta is involved. It's a 4-phase project. We're doing the engagement phase right now, and then we'll be following on with a financial and governance review. And I'll just go through some maps and give you an idea of what it's about. So here are the 8 settlements that the MSGC represents. And yes, the ones that you spoke about are here, Elizabeth and Fishing Lake. Just to, excuse me, start, an IPCA is an area of land and water which allows Indigenous people and governments to work together on a long-term commitment for protection, conservation, and management of land and habitat. And there's a variety of objectives. They tend to be Indigenous-led. They try to respect Indigenous culture and knowledge and the language. And there's about 40 of them across Canada right now. And in Alberta, we're just starting to look at a few of them, and this is one of the first. Just to give you an idea, in other provinces, you can see BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and so on. There's quite a number that are underway or being considered. Most of them tend to be fairly big. The Northwest Territories on our screen is a very big one at 4 million hectares. The one in your area, Northeast Alberta, is probably in the area of 36,000 acres or so. I'll just go through the area and show you some of the current land uses because that's important to understand. So there's two areas that we're considering. Here's the Cold Lake Air Weapons Range. So here's Area A, and here's Area B, which is near Buck Lake. And the MD of Bonnyville is down here. So we're looking at this area, which includes Wolf Lake, and that's an area of much interest to the Métis and other Indigenous people. So I'll just go through each of these areas briefly to give you some information. So the ecological conditions around Wolf Lake, there's the scale on the side shows you types of fish in these various lakes. Wolf
Can I just
Lake.
interrupt, Mr. Reed,
Yes.
just for a second?
Yeah,
You just said
question.
something, you said the MD of Bonnyville is down here. The bombing range is the MD of Bonnyville. Like, and Wolf Lake, so that is in the MD of Bonnyville,
Okay,
we own that.
great. Okay, great. Okay, thank you for that correction. So this is an ecological map that Solstice Canada has prepared for us, and we're going through, we've talked with Ducks Unlimited and some other wildlife groups and so on, so we'll be verifying these facts. But basically, you can see one of the areas, Wolf Lake, is there, and then there's other lakes in the area. Some of the historic context of interest to the Métis settlements. In the scale on the side, the legend on the side shows some fishing areas, some medicinal plants and berries, hunting and trapping. So around Wolf Lake, there's quite an activity set of hunting, fishing, trapping. In the summer, there's an old cemetery, and there was some cabins in the area, north of Wolf Lake as well. And in summer, many Métis go there for visiting and cultural practices and so on. And this summer, there's a biodiversity study being started, so some wildlife cameras were set up to kind of record some of the wildlife activity in this area as well. Some of the current land uses, of course, you'll be quite aware of the oil and gas activity in the area. So the blocks of land have been highlighted around Wolf Lake in this area. CNRL are these kind of purple blocks. The pink one is Bonavista, I believe. The brown one's the Sequoia, and then Synovus is also in this area. We're, and myself, is actually making contact with some of these oil and gas companies to find out their activities. Some of the leases that we've been able to identify, public leases, are inactive, and a number of them obviously are active. And so that needs to be a consideration for this IPCA as well. I'd flip over to the Area B now, which is Buck Lake and Amos Lake. So it's a much smaller kind of area, more private land versus public land. Again, the ecological conditions, you can see obviously the scale of, or the legend of fish in various lakes, and there's summer cabins, and there's obviously more recreation and tourism in the area around these lakes, and they're actively being used. Some of the historic context and cultural importance similar to the Area A. In Area B, there is some trapping, hunting in the two lake areas, some fishing that is occurring as well, and then some homesteading and camps and recreation activities in the summer by the Métis and other Indigenous people. The current land use similar to the other map. This has got more private land, but there are oil and gas leases underway here. So CNRL again in the purple kind of blocks, Sequoia in the brown blocks, and then a couple of other oil companies, less active because there's less oil and gas activity. There's also, as I understand, some forestry under an FMA with Alpac in the area, and a couple of other sawmills. This is the south part, or land use more detailed in the north part of Buck Lake area. And then this is the land use in the southern part of the Buck Lake area. Again, these are highlighted oil and gas leases that are active or inactive. We're not quite sure yet. We have yet to talk with a couple of oil companies. So that gives you a land use. I'll just go through what do we want to do, what's the vision and scope. So there's some key principles that we have been using based on the other IPCAs that are in place. It needs to be regionally responsive and needs-based. You've heard the theme of Indigenous service delivery in the other IPCAs. In many of the IPCAs, they undertake a guardian program, and they'll also undertake environmental monitoring or management programs. So environmental monitoring can be managing or checking on population counts of various wildlife or species at risk. They can also undertake water sampling and water quality testing and land use monitoring as well. On the management side, they may be undertaking things like summer campsite management and other tourism and recreation activities. Importantly, governance is an important factor here as a principle. There's a couple of options, co-management or collaboration approaches. This would be undertaken with the government of Alberta. We have not yet gone to a conclusion here. Those are the kind of general options available. And it obviously has to govern whatever the key objective of the parcels want to be. It also needs some sustainable funding, grants, programs, and maybe fee for service if there's park management or summer recreation activities and so on. That has not been determined yet. Importantly, we're talking about a phased-in approach based on land uses and inclusion. So I briefly highlighted land uses. So obviously, there's a number of oil and gas activities underway. As a lease gets finalized and the production is wound down, operations is wound down, then we have to remediate the land, restore the land, and then put it back into prior use. So that could be decades out. So one of the practical matters is if there's land in use now, it may be not available until 2030 or 2035 or something like that. So we're just going through some of that checking right now. And the land uses from other IPCA activities, they need to be sustainable and culturally sensitive. I showed you some of the cemetery sites and some of the other activities used by Indigenous people around these lakes and areas. So land uses probably implementation would be taken over a 20 or a 30-year period, and that's yet to be determined and finalized. There's some considerations, obviously, and you'll have some comments here, I'm sure. The provincial and federal governments are supporting this feasibility study and other activities similar to this in other provinces, as I showed in the one table. Northern Alberta has obviously other landowners and also leaseholders. It also has to consider visitors, tourists, and non-residents who access the region. So it could be trappers that are in the region or seasonal hunters in the fall that might come into the region. I mentioned the oil industry activity, and over time that will change as leases become non-economic and markets change. And then the land uses vary from market land uses such as an oil lease or an FMA to non-market uses such as wildlife or habitat. In the region, we determined that about 100 caribou or so are in the region. Caribou is a species at risk that's been highlighted by several parties, including the government and other ABMI at the University of Alberta, for example. So this population is a concern as a population at risk. There's also a consideration of climate policy that you're all familiar with, I'm sure. Water and habitat retention and improvement is also a consideration. And then, as I mentioned, the change process will need to consider immediate lands, what can be brought in, and what will require more time to include. Some other considerations, I mentioned the caribou and other species at risk. There is a database around these, and that will be part of a biodiversity study, which is started now and it'll be completed next year. There's also water, wetlands, and habitat restoration that needs to be put in place. So one of the things I didn't mention was for caribou, there's a lot of linear disturbances in the region where a cut line gets put in for seismic activity or a pipeline or something like that. And when there's a linear disturbance like this, it gives wolves an easy way to find where the caribou are located, and that's one of the reasons that caribou are at risk in that region. Well, they're also at risk in other provinces, but linear disturbances is one of the factors. So restoration around the habitat would help minimize that or reduce that risk to the population. I also mentioned Guardian program previously that Indigenous people are quite interested in leading and participating in. There's also, as I mentioned, lake recreation and cottage users, either seasonal or year-round. There's also rural economic opportunities that are land-based. So we do know in the area there is some grazing associations and ranching and farming and sawmills and there could be other activities, tourism related and so on. And one of the considerations or goals is to retain and enhance the cultural and historic settlements. I mentioned a cemetery that was in place, some cabins that were in place. They were apparently burned down in the 1960s or so. So this is a cultural part that does want to be retained. There could be new tourism opportunities as well. And in our discussion, maybe of other information we need to consider. So this is a good map just to highlight the area. So here's Wolf Lake in Area A, and the cemetery in the high use area in the summer I mentioned earlier. There's obviously some leases, CNRL and Synovus in this area as well. We're talking with those companies right now. This area, if there's not a lot of current activity underway, this could be an area for immediate inclusion. And importantly, we want to retain the cemetery sites and some of those cultural sites. So that's a priority for MSGC to look at. So back to the reason we're doing this, and I'll just go through a couple of stakeholder comments here. Some of the stakeholders that we've engaged with include industry, as I mentioned. Carrie's been talking with all of the settlements, the 8 Métis settlements in northern Alberta. She's also started down the tracks with the First Nations. There's about 6 or 7 bands, not immediately in the area, but south and nearby that may access the properties. And we've also talked with the government staff and are continuing on with that process. I've talked with one other municipal district, I think it is, and they were interested to understand what this is about and whether there was going to be an effect or not. And far as I understand, there may not be any effects depending on the municipality. You're right in the area, so obviously that's one of the reasons we want to talk with you. We've also talked with the WPAC, the Water Association groups. There's one out of Athabasca that we talked with as well, and Ducks Unlimited we've talked with, and some other NGOs. So as I say, we're continuing with this engagement process for the next month and a half or so, and then we want to pull it together and find out basically some of these questions, which are, what do you think about this vision and concept for an IPCA in Northeast Alberta? And comments around how should it be managed and governed. I gave you a couple of examples how it might be. We'd like to know how an IPCA may affect you as a community or other communities. Would you support it, or why or why not? And those are some of the questions that I guess I would like to turn back to you, Mr. Chair, and your council for comments. So I would stop here. Just maybe let Carrie, would you add in any kind of comments from the settlements or others that you've heard?
I have met with, in person with the four eastern settlements. So that's the Kikino, Fishing Lake, Buffalo Lake, and Elizabeth. And so with those sessions, there was over 50 members that have attended together. And then there's been more that have filled out the surveys, the online surveys. We've made contact also with the local Métis Nation of Alberta and some First Nation communities, as you mentioned. So I had some conversations with the Hiwin First Nation that I think is in that area as well. And the initial concepts is supported. The vision of an IPCA is supported, although, you know, we're still kind of talking about, I guess, educating and sharing. Not a lot of them don't fully understand the scope of an IPCA, so we're just kind of also including that kind of information in our engagement sessions. There's interest definitely in the study areas. Most of the Indigenous stakeholders have highlighted they use them for hunting, fishing, berry picking. Some also use them for recreational use. The biggest concern, I guess, in terms of what I've heard is that several of the Indigenous peoples feel that if they do nothing in terms of protected and conserving these areas, that their connection to the land will be lost. There's an agreement that IPCA will help maintain habitat for wildlife and biodiversity. Certainly that's what put us, I guess, put IPCA's in terms of that pathway to Target 1 with the federal government and biodiversity. IPCAs are also part of that, so I think that that's kind of what initiated these discussions, and everyone that I've agreed or that I've talked to so far have said that, yeah, then they would support that IPCA. And I guess generally there's been an emphasis on sustainability, on stewardship versus excluding activity. So I guess that's the other thing that I've been hearing when it comes to the Indigenous stakeholders. But yeah, that's all I would add in terms of what we've been hearing so far.
Okay, thank you. So
Yeah, I've got a question for you. You mentioned what WPACs in Athabasca. You didn't mention WPACs in the MD of Bonnyville. So you haven't talked to the local people here. And I guess I'm a little bit disturbed that you're talking a lot about, in general, about study areas A and B, but I'm not even sure why you brought up study area B for the MD of Bonnyville. But anyway, the water packs, yeah, you haven't talked to them. So I guess you'll have to do some more.
I talked to the one, is it Vicky from, and I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but I'd be certainly happy to,
when did you actually talk to her?
About a month ago, I think.
It's funny because she never mentioned it.
Oh no, I sent her all this background information and an online survey, and I'm certainly happy to, engage again with her if that's your advice. Not a problem.
Yeah, I wish, yeah, because I sat on the board actually, and it was never brought up, and so I'm surprised. Yeah, I'd maybe have you forward all that information to me so I can have a chat with the local group and see what they know about it.
Absolutely. No, we'll happily do that. And in terms of the area A and B, this is just a general presentation so you understand both the area that we're talking about, because it's included for the government of Alberta's purposes, which will be the authority that would say, yes, we agree. They have it's considered as one area, even though we broke it into area A and B, just for, it's easier to understand it that way because they're quite different factors or land uses in each of the ones.
Yeah, I'd beg to disagree. It's not easier to understand because they're totally different, right? So, and you're kind of, I'll just ask you about the oil companies that you've talked to for Area A.
Okay.
And you said what did you called them? You said they're, are they on board with all this? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, I won't say that. There's the ones that we've got contact with so far, and we're in early stages, we've talked to Synovus a couple of times. We go through the Indigenous relations group. So Synovus we've talked to a couple of times, and they've shared a map of where their lease activity is near Wolf Lake. CNRL I've called a few times and still waiting to set up a presentation just like I'm doing here. Bonavista, I called them and still waiting back for their contact person internally. Strathcona Resource is a company I understand has bought some leases in the Tucker Lake area from, I think it's Synovus. And those are the main ones that we've touched base with so far. If there's others, I'd be happy to hear the names for sure.
Yeah. Deputy Reeve Fadeo.
Hi, yeah, good morning, thank you. I just have a couple of questions. So in regards to your surveys, it says met with 4 Eastern settlements with over 50 members. That was per session or all the sessions included?
That was all the sessions included in regards to the Métis settlements, yes.
Okay, sounds good. And then you said you met with Kihiwin, but did you meet with Cold Lake First Nations?
I've reached out to Cold Lake, have not yet met with them.
Okay, sounds good, thank you.
Also, in terms of Kihiwin, I've only spoke with the consultation manager, Ken Dion, but we're trying to set up something that works for their chief and some of the elders there.
So,
any other? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to ask. So, this is just to give you an idea of how this is moving. You know, so you understand that one. And we're trying to gather the information, obviously, for guiding any kind of plans for the future. So practically, we have this engagement process underway right now, which we will be reporting probably in December or so. And then if anything was decided, notwithstanding we have, you know, various moving parts at the government of Alberta's kind of level of leadership, something might happen in 2023. We don't know yet. 2023 would be probably more planning on how to include lands, because if money has to be developed by MSGC to buy leases, for example, that are not being used or won't be used in the near term or may never be used, like north of Cold Lake, or Wolf Lake, sorry. We need to plan for that. And so just to give you that idea is we're in the early stages of this consultation with the stakeholders. I would appreciate comments back for sure from yourselves, and the WPAC, go back to Vicky and send her some more information again and re-engage it if you didn't see that at the board meeting.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just one more question. Our family kind of homesteaded in that Wolf Lake area. I'm just kind of wondering, is there any barriers right now to them visiting their traditional grounds? Like what's the holdback? Because they were all fairly good neighbors at the time, and there was no setbacks, no holdbacks on anybody's part that I know of.
Good point.
On my part, I would say I haven't heard of that kind of barrier. I have heard that previously some of the cabins, as I mentioned, were homesteaded back in the 60s were burned down previously. The cemetery does want to be preserved as a cultural site. That's a loud and clear message we've heard. Accessing the land right now, I don't think is a problem. Carrie, maybe you've heard differently. I don't know.
No, I don't think access, in terms of access, I don't think that that's the barrier. One of the things that I have heard though is their concerns about, they fish in the area and there's less fish available for fishing, or the fish are contaminated with mercury or whatever. They hunt in the areas. They're concerned about less hunted species available. The berries, definitely herbicide use has been brought up and killing berries. So it's more of those kinds of impacts that have come up as concerns versus access.
So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of environmental challenges that we have for sure as a whole, as a country and as a province. But I mean, as far as fishing, a lot of us can't fish or can't keep our fish anyway, right? So, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, just some comments from me. You talk about shutting down lines and stuff up there. Well, I personally knew the last guy that used to trap up there, Mr. LaPratt, and he used to praise me because I used to open the lines for him all the time because I logged up there, and he's very happy with me that I opened the line so he could travel. And I know lots of people that go and visit the gravesite up there, and most of the times they have to, unless they go across the lake and then hike in, most of them use cut lines and the roadway that goes all the way up to the bombing range there that I've been on many times. So that's how they access to get there. So, and nobody has any rules that says that they can't go up there, and everyone visits. I've been there myself, so I don't think there's nobody holding anybody against from, and also they can go fishing anywhere they want at any time, in my knowledge anyway.
Mr. Reeve, yeah, just another question, sort of as a follow-up. Sort of, how does this actually benefit the First Nations? How does it benefit the municipality? What are the kind of positives here?
I guess we haven't gone down to that level of detail of benefits yet, but I guess if you look at the general trend across Canada and globally, there is a recognition of the heritage sites for Indigenous people, and across Canada I mentioned about 40 IPCAs being put in place, and part of the reason is to probably do a bit of a better job of managing populations at risk or habitats. So that would be one of the benefits for a municipal government. I don't know the costs or the benefits yet. I mean, I don't, and that's part of the reason to have a commentary or a session like this right now. For Alberta, they're very interested. The government of Alberta is interested. They've got a couple of people on staff that are leading this kind of process, and the government of Canada is also interested. So, but the benefits and the implications, we're still working through those kind of questions right now. And in terms of land users and so on, leaseholders still have access to the land. And as I said, it's probably going to be a multi-decade assembly process if the plan kind of follows through. So we're just finding out what's stakeholders' comments onto the plan, and how do you feel about it?
I guess we'll discuss this as a council, and I'm sure our residents will be getting a hold of us on this, and we'll be making some decisions, and we'll have some comments for you. I'm quite sure of that, Councillor Swager.
Yeah, just maybe it's my last question. Our MLA I don't think he said anything about this. So is this provincially being run provincially or federally, or who's? I know it's new, but it's been happening in other parts of the country, I guess. So who's driving it?
Well, this project is funded by the federal government under one of their Indigenous programs, and there's a number of these studies underway across Canada, kind of thing. The Alberta government is fully participating in this through Alberta Environment and Parks, and you can certainly share this information with your MLA, not a problem at all. If somebody wanted to engage with us around that topic, certainly. And who's driving it? It's I guess driven by the Métis settlements and MSGC. They're the proponent, so we're helping them gather the information and find out if it's feasible or not. And it's under this banner of the national program to kind of look at IPCAs, which is linked again with international efforts that are happening in other countries too.
Okay, is there any other questions? Seeing none, well, thank you, both of you, for your presentation. Thank you so much, and you guys have a great day there in Edmonton.
Okay, thank you for the time.
All right, take care.
Bye now.
Bye. All right, just looking for a motion, please.
Yeah, I'll make the motion, I guess, that basically to have our administration bring it back and with a recommendation at the last meeting in October. Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Reeve, is there, I'm just not sure if you're going to have any further information. Are you going to by that time?
Through the Reeve to Councillor Swigert and to the rest of council, I'm not sure we'll have any more information, but the presentation was asking in the questions, letters of support, et cetera, and it would be, we'll see what else we can find, but it would be certainly currently, I'm not sure I could recommend as a CAO to move forward with any kind of letter of support until we have clarity on a variety of issues. One thing that the presentation was fairly, they didn't spend a lot of time talking about land use governance, controls, municipal autonomy in the area. I'm still unclear myself as to whether or not that area is going to, well, what's going to happen with assessment. Will the oil patch be removed? They talk about a decade-long process, but what does that look like 10 years from now? Right now, we'll certainly put together something and some recommendations and see what else we can find, but
it's pretty vague.
Yeah, it's terrible.
You know, you don't really know what they want, right? That's just my opinion.
Yeah, Mr. Reeve.
Yes, go
Yeah,
ahead.
is there going to be like more red tape involved and going to stop progress and stuff also, you know, like we don't know many issues yet what's going to happen with that.
Yes, thanks. All right, Councillor Crick?
He was talking about reclamation and stuff there, and that there's leases, so he's saying it might be 20 years down the road before it's the land's put back to its whatever original state or purpose, which I'm thinking is bush. So they're really, my interpretation is they're talking about ending the oil industry in that area, which is be a big shame, I think. So.
All right. Let me get my glasses back on here. Thank you, Councillor Crick, for making a motion that council accepts the presentation by Toma Consulting and Solitis Environmental Management on engagement project for a new Indigenous protected and conservation area IPCA in the northeastern Alberta as information, and furthermore directs administration to bring back additional information regarding the project to the October 26, 2022 regular meeting of council as instructed. Any discussion on this motion?
Yeah, Mr. Reeve.
Yes, go ahead.
Just a question. I don't understand, like, the presentation. Yeah, I kind of get it, but they weren't asking for a letter of support or anything. I mean, how could you possibly write any kind of, it was just information, like this is phase 1 of 1,000 phases, I'm hoping.
actually on the last page of the presentation, they did ask for letter of support.
Yep.
Letter of
did they?
support and comments.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Well,
comments, the last four, they had four line items.
I missed that, so, I mean, there's no way I could have a letter of support written yet. No, nothing.
Any other comments? Okay, I'll call for the vote. Carried, thank you. We'll take a 5-minute break.
I will be taking over the chairing as Reeve Barry Kalinsky had to leave. So we'll start off at, I believe, 9.4. No. Are we there, Stephanie? Ms. Severin? Hi, thank you.
Hi. I have bylaw number 1806, the amending assessment review board bylaw. Administration is proposing amendments to bylaw 1742, establishing the local assessment review board, as well as bylaw number 1743, establishing the composite assessment review board, regarding the eligibility requirements, as well as clarify the terms of conditions for members at large that sit on each board. In February of 2022, Council passed bylaw 1748, establishing the boards and committees bylaw for the municipality. In that bylaw, section 7, subsection 7.3 specifies that members at large sitting on any MD board or committee must be a resident of the municipality unless otherwise provided for in the terms of reference. Administration believes it could be beneficial to allow non-municipal residents to sit as members at large on the MD, LARB, and CARB. Given the nature of these boards, having members of the public from outside the municipality could reduce the perception of bias and risk of conflict of interest between complainants and members of the panel hearing the complaint. Additionally, changing the term conditions for members at large from 3 years to 4 years is just to align these appointments with the election term. The Committee of the Whole reviewed this bylaw on September 21st and is recommending that Council pass the amending bylaw as presented. Administration's recommendation is that Council gives this bylaw all 3 readings today.
Great, thank you. Yeah, we did have some good discussion in regards to that. Councilor Swigert?
No, just I was going to make the motion for option 1. It's a perfect, it's a perfect thing we should be doing, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to vote on the motion to present the bylaw, correct?
Yeah, I would just need 4 separate motions.
Okay, sounds good. So the first motion was by Councilor Swigert, and the motion says that bylaw number 1806, being a bylaw of the Municipal District of Bonnyville, number 87, to amend bylaw number 1742, establishing the Local Assessment Review Board, by bylaw number 1743, establishing the Composite Review Board, be given first reading. And I'll call for the vote. Any more discussion? I see none. Call for the vote. Okay, that was carried.
I'll move second reading. Sorry.
So we'll do a second reading by Councilor Crick. Sorry, you having?
Sorry.
Sorry. So we have a motion on the floor. Any more discussion? So we are giving bylaw 1806 be given second reading. All those in favor? Calling for the vote. So in this case, we're keeping it up to like best practices of doing a third reading. Do we just wait for that then, or in this
I'm
case, should we?
asking for all 3 readings today. You're obviously welcome to hold off on giving all 3 readings at your discretion. I will not be able, we may or may not be able to proceed with appointing the ARB members today if you choose not to give it all 3
Gotcha.
readings.
So there could be bottleneck into the appeals and whatever else.
Yeah, it's at your discretion. It wouldn't affect the ARB process.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, this is an easy one, and this should have been done years ago, because these assessment boards and CARBs they've always had people from out of the municipality on these boards. We missed it in our bylaw.
Okay.
And so it's really, it should be done. It should have been done a long time ago. And then if we pass this, then we can actually go, because there's another motion coming up to select those board members. So I think we really, I'm happy with doing it.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks for the discussion. Councilor Kerviak.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to proceed to third reading.
Okay, any more discussion? Thank you. So the council proceeds to third and final reading of bylaw 1806. Call for the vote.
And then we need a motion for third
Okay,
reading.
thank you.
And I'll make that motion.
Okay, Councilor Swigert, any more discussion? Call for the vote. Thank you. So the next one, we're looking pretty close to being the same then.
Yes. Next
go
is
ahead.
bylaw number 1807, and that one is to amend bylaw 1670, establishing the Subdivision and Development Appeal Board. Same thing, we're just making an amendment to allow members from outside of the municipality to sit on the board if council deems that person eligible and appropriate. And then just a small wording in the term conditions allowing council to appoint someone for up to 4 years at their discretion.
Sounds good. Any questions?
No, so Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to go to first reading.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, that bylaw number 1807 being a bylaw of municipal district of Bonnyville number 87 to amend bylaw number 1670, establishing the subdivision and development appeal board be giving first reading. Call for the vote. Thank you, that was carried. Looking for the next reading.
I'll make a motion that council proceeds to third and final reading of bylaw 1807.
Second.
Second.
Okay, any more discussion? Call for the vote. Looking for third one.
No, I'll make a motion to proceed to third.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Kerviak. Any more discussion? Seeing none, call for the vote. That was carried.
I'll move that we go and give it third reading.
Okay, any more discussion? Seeing none, I call for the vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Severin, hopefully that will make your job easier.
Thank you.
Okay, 9.5, we have council invitations.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve, members of council. The 9.5, 1, 2, and 3 are regarding invitations to several events taking place. So the first one is the Bonnyville District Chamber of Commerce, our Resiliency Run Deep Award, October 14th, 2022. This is a no-charge event. Our Resiliency Runs Deep Awards are back to honor the accomplishments of the Bonnyville business community. Cocktails are at 6 p.m., dinner at 7 p.m., and the program and dance to follow. As a Platinum Corporate member, the MD receives 6 free tickets to the awards, and the Chamber is seeking confirmation that we will be using these tickets. The other two events that are charged events, the Ronald McDonald House Charities would like to invite council to join them for their Taste of Home Gala 2022 on the 27th of November at Sabor, which is, the council had dinner there, convention last year, or this year. Other locations indicated in Appendix B at a cost of $200 per person. The third one is in partnership with the Bonnyville Minor Hockey, Kids Sport Bonnyville, the Junior A Pontiacs, the Bonnyville District SPCA, and the Bonnyville Senior Pontiacs. Council is invited to attend the first annual Victor Ringette Sportsman Dinner on October 15th, 2022 at the Bonnyville and District Centennial Center. The event includes a full catered meal, a guest speaker, live entertainment, silent auction, and interactive games. Tables of 8 can be purchased at a cost of $800 or individual tickets at a cost of $120. The cost and source funding, the additional tickets to the Chamber of Commerce event would be $75. Tickets for the Ronald McDonald House Charities are $200 per person. Tickets for the first annual Victor Ringett Sportsman Dinner are $800 for a table of 8, or $120 for an individual. If council approves additional tickets for the Chamber event and/or tickets for the RMHC event or first annual Sportsman Dinner, the source of funding will be the Public Relations Awards and Social Events Banquet. Thank you. Administrative recommended action is the council approves attendance to the presented events as follows. The Bonnyville and District Chamber of Commerce Our Resiliency Runs Deep Awards to be held on October 14th, 2022. The Ronald McDonald House Charities Taste of Home Gala to be attended by somebody or no one at a cost of X number of dollars to be funded by the 2022 operating budget, and the first annual Victor Ringett Sportsman Dinner to be held on October 15th, 2022 and attended by who at a cost of X dollars to be funded by the 2022 operating budget. I would add, Mr. Deputy Reeve and Council, we've had issues in the past, in the last year, with indicating attendance and then having difficulty, my executive assistant having difficulty finding people to fill these spots. So I would just recommend that Council confirm names and get some confirmations as part of the motion that people will be attending.
Sounds good. You said what I was thinking. Yeah, so in regards to the Business Resiliency Runs Deep Awards, who can attend?
Which one?
That is the October 14th, that's a chamber one.
First one?
October 14th.
October 14th.
No.
So that's 9.51. Yeah, as being members, we try to attend to that. So are you going to bring your spouse along? Yeah? Okay, Ms. Bartlett, we have Councillor Crick and his spouse, Councillor Scarson.
I already bought tickets to both these events.
So you're good? Okay. Councillor Subchuk? Not this one? Okay. Councillor Kerviak?
Not this one.
Okay. Councillor Sawyer?
October 14th.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll say yes.
Okay, for 2?
Yeah.
Okay, and then, so we have, then myself.
CEO might have to come with me, though.
Table of 8.
Of 2, so that we have 6 tickets? Correct?
6, yes.
So, can't count. Yeah, there we go. I'll take the other 2. Okay, the next one would be Ronald McDonald House. What's your feelings about that?
It's a tough one. November 20, well, the closest is November 27th in Edmonton.
Yeah. Can't
Okay.
attend?
No.
I'll be attending that one privately with the family.
Okay.
Again, this is.
It's an in-home gala invitational, so we do it from our homes, right? From what I understand. The Ronald McDonald House.
Sorry, so an email did just come in yesterday that apparently they had gotten some questions that they sent out clarifications for. The Ronald McDonald House Charities Alberta's Taste of Home Gala is in person at one of the 4 gala locations indicated. And then they're allowing people to create their own table size of anywhere from 4 to 10 people.
Gotcha. Yeah. I bet they had a lot of questions in regards to that one. Okay.
Not for me.
Okay, looks like nobody can make it. So next one is 9.53, Victor Ringett Sportsman
Yeah.
Dinner.
I'll go to that one, Mr. Deputy Reeve.
Okay.
Mr. Deputy Reeve?
Yeah.
The last one there, Councillor Slipchuk said he could go to the Ronald McDonald one.
Yeah, but I'm gonna attend that one privately with family.
That's
doing it on my own.
And you're doing that in Edmonton?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it's
nice.
still nice to have a municipal representative there.
I think it would be nice to have MD sponsor a couple tickets at least, if we could. I'm sure we could find
I
somebody.
mean, you got a guy going, you might as well get 2 tickets.
Would attend.
But I think he bought some already.
Have you actually bought tickets already for that?
Yeah.
She's buying them. She hasn't bought them yet. I mean, we still have a counselor going, why wouldn't you support, I don't know, it's up to you guys, I guess.
Council?
I'm okay with making a motion to let Counselor Slipchuk attend that one.
Yeah, he's a good rep for
Sure.
that. He's passionate about Ronald McDonald's. So we'll get
2 tickets?
2 tickets and go from there. Okay, the minor hockey. Do we get a table or do we get individual tickets? So we have Councilor Kriviak said yes for 2.
For Victor and Get, yes.
Yeah, Councilor Slipchuk as well. Councilor Scarson,
I'm sure
you already got a table?
Mr.
invited
Deputy
us.
Reeve, probably Councillor Kalinsky would want to, Reeve Kalinsky want to go,
Okay,
I'm sure.
so we have 6, and we need a table of 8, is it, or usually right, table of 8? Yeah. Okay, so 2 more.
I'll make that motion. I'll make a motion, Mr. Deputy Reeve, for a table of 8.
For table 8, okay.
Yeah.
So
And
now
I
we're
can
just,
probably attend that one too. Yeah.
okay, so you're going to attend as well, so then we'll have
Follow
with your spouse. So we have 8 then. Okay, thank you. So the motion was for table of 8. So we have DeReeve, Councilor Slipchuk, yourself, and, yeah. Yeah. All right. So, Coal Lake Regional Chamber of Commerce Business Year Awards.
So I made the motion. Are you going to vote on the motion, or need a motion?
Probably should have
would-
did that.
It's up to you guys if you want to include the Cold Lake Chamber Business of Year Awards in this motion or make that a separate motion. It's up to you.
Okay. So I need a motion for attendance. That we captured everything, right? So for these? Okay, so we'll do, okay, all per one, sounds good. So I need a motion for 9.51. So District of Chamber of Commerce for Bonnyville. We had that, and, okay,
We'll show what we have, and this is what we have
okay, thank
for
you.
the motion.
okay, sorry. For which one, the last one? Yeah, yeah. Okay, we have a motion on the, sorry, there is a motion. I need a motion. Who was that? Councilor Slipchuk?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that council approves the attendance to present events as.
Okay, sounds good. We have that in view. Any more discussion? I call for the vote. That's carried, thank you. Sure, we'll see the invites pretty soon for Ms. Bartlett. Now we need the Coal Lake Regional Chamber Business Awards that Councilor Kriviak made. So,
Through the Deputy Reeve to Council, so it was a fairly recent, matter of fact, just a couple of days ago, we received the Business of the Year Award from the Cold Lake Regional Chamber of Commerce. Typically, we would have waited and brought it to the next council meeting, but because the event is not till October 21st, however, we were worried that the event may sell out and council would not have had an opportunity. The member pricing is $75 to attend, and we can certainly register councillors who would like to go. It's just a matter of a motion to allow whoever would like to go to that event.
Okay, so it's by the table then again?
The information I have, it's member pricing, so it's per member at 75. I don't have any information on table. It's just, it's
Just by member? Okay.
by member.
I have a conflict on that one, even though we're one of the nominees, but, yeah. That'll be
October
the
21st.
21st, Friday. So no for Councillor Crick, Councillor Scarson. You're in Calgary that week. Councillor Swire,
I think I'm okay for that one. Oh, sorry, I'm not.
you're not? Okay. Councillor Kerviak,
No, thanks. I'm going next day to the Glendon Firemen's Ball, so
Okay.
it's too much. Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Slivchuk? You'll take those, okay. We'll ask the Reeve, I know he usually attends, so let's go for 4 right now.
Mr. or Deputy Reeve, I'm not against having a table as long as we can fill it with staff, right? It's nothing worse than having 2 tables and one's empty, but.
Well, I mean, for staff, I mean, it's kind of tough, right? I mean, and there's some questions before, if we're gonna get staff in there, we're gonna pay them to go and all that kind of stuff, right? I mean, I think it's just council members as of right now, and we'll kind of go from there, so.
And Mr. Deputy Reeve, there is nothing in the advertising about a table for the Cold Lake Business of the Year Award. It's
Oh,
just
good.
individual
It's just
tickets.
sitting,
Yeah.
you're right.
Sitting.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
good then. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. So, we got a motion up there? No? Sure, please. So the council approves attendance to the Cold Lake Regional Chamber of Commerce Business of the Year Award, Friday, October 21st, 2022, attended by Councilor Slipchuk and Reeve Kalinsky at a cost of $300 plus GST. Okay, any more discussion? I guess we need to know who moved it. That was Councilor Slipchuk.
That motion.
Okay, I call for a vote. All right, thank you for that. That passed. Now we go on to correspondence and information. CEO?
Thank you, Mr. Members of Council. There is that list of correspondence in front of you. There's nothing particular to highlight. Some of the invitations have already been to some of the Truth and Reconciliation events and flag raisings that have already been selected from Council, so I don't really have much to say on that list of correspondence.
Okay, thank you. So we'll need a motion for that. Now, 10.16, in regards to the Hurricane Fiona support. Reeve asked me to have some discussion on that.
So, Mr. Deputy Reeve, if we could just get a motion to accept the
First one
correspondence.
first.
And-
Okay.
yeah.
So need a motion. That was by Councillor Scarson, or is that more just conversation? Okay, sounds good.
So first one there is, motion March 9th, says no action required by administration for the town, this is about the regional aquatic center, so the town of Bonnyville for successful realization of grant funding from provincial and our federal government to assist in construction costs, so just for, do you have any update on that, CEO?
No update whatsoever. There's,
So have we talked to the town at all to let them know what our motion was and what we're?
the town is familiar and is aware of our motion, but as it's a town project, we're not in the driver's seat. And even at that, has council made the commitment to that funding? So the motion that council made was very specific to proceed with partnering with the town of Bonnyville in the proposed aquatic center, subject to a partnership agreement with the town of Bonnyville for design, construction, operation, and maintenance of the new facility, and also subject to successful realization of grant funding from the provincial or federal governments to assist in construction costs. So because it's a town project, it would be the town applying for those. So we haven't been asked for letters of support. We haven't been asked for any other activity on that file whatsoever.
Okay, and then the other one was the Regional Sports Tourism Committee. It says, schedule meetings with the town of Bonnyville, City of Cold Lake, Village of Glendon to discuss options for the formation of the Regional Sports Tourism Committee. How's that coming along?
So we haven't done anything with the town or the Village of Glendon or the City of Cold Lake yet. What ended up happening is we were invited 2 weeks ago and our Economic Development Officer attended. I was unable to attend myself. Lac-La-Biche invited us to a meeting with Lac-La-Biche with the region. So City of Cold Lake, I believe somebody from the town of Bonnyville, and we attended. Lac-La-Biche would like to do a regional, so we wanted to attend that meeting just to see what the flavor of the room was before we went out and did anything more on the sports tourism here. I haven't received a report from our Economic Development Officer. I just got a very quick email saying it was attended, but I'm not sure a regional item with Lac-La-Biche is going to work given the distances, but we wanted to attend that meeting first and then start moving forward on the council action item to start meeting with people. The other problem with meeting people was also summer. Now that we're back into the swing in the fall, it'll be much easier to organize these meetings.
All right.
Yeah, it's kind of exciting to hear that Lac-La-Biche wanted the in-on conversation, so you're going to make a motion to
Yeah, sure. To
accept that information? Okay, Councillor Scarson made a motion.
Just one comment, Mr.
Okay, sorry, go ahead. Didn't
So
see
the boat talk at Chicken Hill Lake will be brought forward during budget? Okay, thank you.
Okay, council accepts the following correspondence as information from 1 to 15. Okay, I'll call for the vote. Okay, that was passed. CO.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Reeve and members of the council. So in conversation with the Reeve yesterday or the day before, there was some interest expressed in potentially in sending some funds to one or more of the charities that are involved in some of the recovery efforts in Eastern Canada after Hurricane Fiona. So the question really for council is, A, is there interest in doing that, and B, to what amount? I don't have appropriate charity in front of me. We haven't got that far into it yet, but if there certainly was some interest and we had a dollar figure, we could very quickly find out a suitable charity or a suitable organization to send some funds for the hurricane recovery efforts.
Okay, council, any more discussion on that? Councilor Perk?
Yeah, I guess I think supporting them it's a very nice idea. However, I think individuals or businesses, if they want to send money to a charity, I think that's fine, but I don't think it's necessarily the right place to send tax dollars, so I'm not really in favor of it.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Swearitt?
Yeah, similar. It's a tough one, but how do you do that? Do you pick a certain community or something that maybe somebody has ties with, or, it's a tough one, because you're right, it's taxpayers' money here, and they may not all be that excited about sending it somewhere else when they think we got lots of issues here, but I don't know. It's a hard decision.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Slipchuk. Sorry.
Yeah, we spent taxpayers' money to support these other local charities like Victor's the Victor Inget thing, the Ronald McDonald Charities. We have a lot of Easterners that live in our community, work in our community. I believe it'd be a good gesture to show our support, and because lots of them that do that work here have family back there, and they're taxpayers too. And we got a big population of them here.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy. I'm not in favor of this either. Individuals can donate to the Red Cross or some other organization as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm a little torn too, but I would definitely not be in favor of not knowing what charity first we'd be donating to, so that'd be a big question mark for me.
So you'd be open to it if you knew what charity?
Possibly.
Was on. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, I think we all know somebody there, and it's sad, but yeah, again, this is municipal government, so I mean, it's kind of tough to give that money out, but for sure. Okay, so we just look for more information then, in regards to who we would give it to. Would that be a motion from Councillor Scarson?
No.
No?
Mr. Deputy Reeve, it's just, probably just a motion go on the floor to let it go up or down. We could certainly find out some more information and send an email to council as to where that would go, but I don't get a sense that there's consensus on council to do, a majority consensus on council to move ahead with it, so.
It's a consensus part we're looking for, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be pretty well split.
Yeah, so I would just, if that was the case, just suggest a motion to receive for information.
Okay. Okay with that?
You're looking for a motion then just to receive our discussion as information? Yeah. Okay, I'll make the motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. We'll just wait for that to pop up and then we'll take the vote. So the motion is from Councillor Crick that we accept this update for Hurricane Fiona support discussion as information. I call for the vote. Okay, that was carried. Okay, we move down to 11, reports from members of council. Start with Councillor Swigert.
Thanks, Mr. Deputy Reeve. So we traveled to RMA Zone 5. A few of us had gone, myself and Deputy Reeve, Dave, and Councillor Crick. CAO was there to support us. So good zone meeting. Some of the presentations, one by STARS. And one of the interesting guest points for me for STARS, while I think they're up to 10 or 9 new helicopters now and one more on the way, so they'll have 10 new helicopters with much greater range. And they talked about Vigilant STARS site registration. So for $150 a year, you register a site in your community where you may have set up a landing zone, where you may have, like if it's a major intersection of a highway, you know there's lots of accidents, you'd set up one of those zones, gives them that information and tells them where they can land. There was a discussion, or a presentation by Louis Genest on the Vermilion River gas utility. So they operate their own gas utility throughout the community, and just kind of good to hear they're doing natural gas vehicles in that municipality because they have gas and it's cheaper for them to do it. So interesting. Presentation by a nurse practitioner. And I really wasn't familiar with the term, Councillor Fadeev was, but an NP or nurse practitioner. Jennifer Mader talked about how these nurse practitioners throughout the province could help with the doctor shortage because they're actually allowed to do basically equivalent services of a doctor without having a doctor oversight. So they can give you prescriptions and needles and everything else, and they can actually set up practices. And so you may have a nurse practitioner rather than a doctor because we're so short of them. So it was actually a good presentation. And there was an RMA resolution or motion put forward to, I guess, kind of support that need. The last one I'll mention here is the annual RMA District 5 Golf Tournament. So there was discussion about which community may be able to host a golf tournament for next year, and I just suggest maybe we can consider maybe hosting an RMA golf tournament, because we got like 3 big golf courses in this area, so we might want to discuss that and maybe have CAO send them a letter saying we'd be interested in doing that if we are. Paul McLaughlin talked about, he's the RMA president, talked about the replacement for the MSI, or the Municipal Sustainability Initiative that's been going on for 20 years or whatever. That's being replaced with an LGFF funding model. It's kind of not looking great for rural municipalities. Maybe RMA did a great job in presenting to the province how we should be funded, and the Alberta munis didn't do such a great job, maybe I'll say. And anyway, we're hoping that we get some decent money back from the province to replace MSI, so there's some discussion about that. He also mentioned broadband speed testing results, and he compared us to a third world country as far as broadband speed testing. He was hoping that a lot of the folks in rural municipalities here could go to the RMA website and run a speed test, and then that gives them those results, those internet speed test results, and then they can show it to the province and show them how poor coverage is so far. And I think that was it. Thank you.
Mr. Deputy, just to add to Councillor Swigert's report, there would be no issue with administration hosting the golf tournament.
I missed the trip because I just got back from a trip to Peace River, and we looked at their waste energy initiative that they're working on. So it was good to see it in action. They still have some hiccups, and they're still working on some issues, but it's something that we'd kind of strive to do. So maybe Councillor or Deputy Reid can talk about it a bit too.
Yeah, it's very promising. It looks, it's like very, very promising. Right now, they're doing a pilot program, and now they're going through all the regulations and setting the bar of what the emissions are going to look like. So probably within next 6 months to a year, we'll see some numbers and some commitments from our province and from us. But I think it's something we should start planning for now and see what we can do. So. Councilor Kerviak, are you ready for your reports?
No. Okay. Thank you. At a BRFA meeting, you guys have the minutes there, but some items, the average transfers were down 7%. The average call-ups were up, 9.81 average calls per day. And there was an issue on August 14th where a mother refused to go with her 3-year-old child in an ambulance because she was taking another child to daycare, so they had to wait in the hospital before the mother came back. So it's all good now. I went to the RCMP Regimental Ball, fairly good attendance there. And I bought an item at a live auction there as well, spent some money. And then I had an FCSS meeting on the budget with the vice chair and the director of FCSS. And that's about it for me. Thank you.
Councilor Slipton.
Yeah, I had a pretty quiet week, except for the RCMP ball we attended. That was my first time attending something like that. It was very nice, and I guess they raised a lot of money for victim services, which was a good, huge benefit. And it was nice that Councillor Kreviak got pulled right in and bid high on that blanket. As well as, that's about all I did on that part, but I just want to say thank you to the MD staff and road maintenance. I've got calls on Range Road 455 north of Highway 660. They fixed up the approach, fixed up the low spot, and I've had calls from residents that were very pleased, as well as they painted the lines on Wolf Lake Highway north of LaCory were really bad, and they got right after it, and I've had calls from truck drivers and everything, really appreciative, and thank you to all the staff for all you guys do. Thank you.
Sounds good. Quick question in regards to victim services. Did they mention at all that the province was going to cut their funding, and this is why they're possibly doing some funding?
I never heard nothing like from that. Did you?
About the province cutting funding to victim services?
I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah, just something I heard a couple days ago, and I found it kind of a little disturbing, I guess, right? But, yeah, so we'll see.
Maybe it'll come up in our next meeting or whatever.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilor Kirk.
Yeah, at a BRFA meeting, I think Councillor Kriviak covered that one. Also, it went to a men's shed conference in Cold Lake, and it was kind of an interesting conference, just Wednesday evening and all day Thursday. It did go Friday morning a little bit. I wasn't able to make that portion of it. But basically the men's sheds it's geared towards retired men, but it can be anywhere from 14-year-old and up. And they're really about mental health is what I get to pick up from the conference. It's just good for men, and some men tend to isolate, be alone, sit in the recliner, just kind of don't get out and do too much. So it's more of a space to talk and connect with other men. And typically it's a woodworking shop or some kind of shop, but it could be anything else in there. And then also at the RMA Zone 5 meeting, I think Councillor Swigert covered most of that. Smoky Lake also put a few motions forward asking for less red tape, which I thought was good. And then just the other night in Cold Lake, there was a lake trout working group that I attended, and they're looking for feedback for the lake trout fishing regulations. So if anyone here has anything you want to offer to me for feedback that I can take back to that group, I'd appreciate that. And anybody that's watching this on YouTube or in the public that has suggestions, get a hold of me, and I'd be happy to represent that at the lake trout working group. The fishery, I guess, has come back quite a bit from what it used to be, so they're just looking at what we want the regulations to be, and they're open to all suggestions. And there's 4 meetings, so the first one's done now. There'll be 3 more meetings between now and Christmas. About right now, the current regulation on the fish is you're allowed to keep 1 over 75 centimeters, and about 2% of the adult lake trout in the lake are over that 75 centimeter mark. So, just interesting. Yeah, it was at the RCMP ball as well, and that's about it for me.
Just a quick question in regards to regulations. Are they positive regulation changes, or are they just more like detrimental to fishing?
I guess it depends what your opinion of a positive regulation change is. My idea of a positive regulation change is you're allowed to eat what you catch. And some people are more into just getting a trophy fish, so there's different ideas of what you want to see, right? So, right. But that's what they're open to hearing, is whatever you want to see in the lake from the lake trout, then let me know and I'll take that forward.
Okay, sounds good. Councilor Carson.
Yeah, so I was at a C2 meeting the other day, and they're in the process right now of putting up the new score clock, so that should be up Sunday. They're supposed to be complete. They got the old one down and the new frame already up and installed, so they're coming along nicely. And also the Agriplex will be turned over, I think it was October 3rd or so. So
coming up.
That's next week as well, I guess. So that's sounds like everything went really well with that, and on budget and on time. So we'll have another field house there to use and haul and all that. So looked really nice, the tours that I've been on so far. And then the library, they canceled the last one, but I know they're in the process now of doing interviews for a new librarian, because the librarian had to leave for personal reasons. So we have a new librarian here. I think the last day of Leah's is Friday.
Okay.
So that's about it.
Thanks. All right, the only thing that I can add to my list was the FCSS in Cold Lake. They're just getting back into business. There are some struggles with, I guess, they're doing a lot of writing, a lot of applying for people that were at Alberta Works before, and they're just, that's all they're doing is doing like application forms for people that can't get the service like anywhere else. And there's also an FCNA AA that's coming up conference in Edmonton that I won't be attending, but Councillor Crick probably be there for that, right? So, and Councillor Kriviak probably. So, yeah, thanks for that. Okay, that concludes that. Do we need a motion for that one as well, or no? No, we're just, that's information. So now moving to 12, are we closed session? Is there anything that's pertaining to that? Right, yeah. So I need a motion to go into closed session.
I'll make a motion, we go closed session.
Okay. Thank you for that. All right, calling for the vote. Nothing? Too late for you? So that was a yes? Okay, thank you. We're back from closed session. So coming out of closed session, I have Councillor Kerviak made the motion to come out of camera. And did you make the motion as well for the recommended action? Yeah. So that council, we have that up on the board. I'll just. Thank you. That council appoints Peter Charles as a member of at-large for the MD of Bonnyville Subdivision Development and Appeal Board for a 4-year term to expire 2026. Any more discussion? Okay, call for the vote. It's carried, I think. Yes, thank you. So, second motion. The council appoints Peter Charles, Rhonda Morin, and reappoints Ron Young as members at large for the MD of Bonnyville Local Assessment Review Board for a 3-year term expiring October 2025. Who made that motion again? That was Councillor Crick. Any more discussion? Okay. Call for the vote. All right. That's carried. So I need I think that concludes today's. One more? Oh yeah, the other one. Okay. And then this one here is for the carb and larb. Okay. So that council appoints Peter Charles, Rhonda Morin, and reappoints Ron Young as members at large for the MD of Bonnyville Composite Assessment Review Board for a 3-year term to expire 2025. Call for the vote. Thanks for your patience, Ms. Severin. All right, that concludes today's council session, and I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Councillor Slipchuk, thank you.